Live.
I could have made some money today on the long line.
Can you guys hear me?
Rosary.
Yeah.
Good.
You ready?
Brett, I can't believe there's still people like, I thought they ran out after 200.
Okay, we're going live.
300 and some odd.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Mover Councillor Decker, seconder Councillor DeRose. That council approved the agenda as presented. Councillor Longo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. Since we're starting early tonight, can I get some clarification on the end time of this meeting?
At the end time of this meeting, there is no, I don't think there's an end time. I'll ask the clerk to verify that, and then we'll proceed as such. Go ahead, Joanne.
Fair to members of council. The end time will be when council decides to finish the agenda, adjourn early, or ends up going past the 10 o'clock timeline.
So it's 10 o'clock unless council wants to go later, Councillor Longo. Go ahead.
Can we just quickly discuss 10 o'clock now, if everybody's okay with ending it then? It's a long meeting as it is, but I'll leave that out to others if they want to agree.
Are we going till 10 or are we going later? So that's the discussion so that we can adjust the agenda accordingly. Go ahead, Councillor Kenny. Councillor Kenny.
I will stay till 10 o'clock, including the in-camera meeting, and that's it.
Okay. So the question would be then, are we going past 10 o'clock? Is that correct to the city clerk? Or?
That's right. So what we'll do is closer to about 9:30. If we're not already in closed session, we'll just decide then if there's any items that are left on the agenda, what needs to be moved up.
Okay. So is everybody good with that? We'll touch base at 9:30 and then we'll move forward as such. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, on my screen, there's two of me and two of Councillor Longo. I don't know if there's a glitch, if maybe Matt, and I see two of Councillor Decker right now. So I don't know can Matt fix that quickly, or it's kind of frustrating. But it's all good. Everything else, I can hear you guys. And
We're all on our screen here. There's one of everyone, just so you're aware. Okay, so go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to apologize for my attire. I'm still at the hospital, but I am here, and I might have to turn my screen off for about a half an hour at some point after 6, just so you're aware, but I'll maintain on the meeting.
Thank you so much, Councillor Wilson. Okay, so the adoption of the agenda, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adoption of minutes. Mover Councillor Neal, seconder Councillor Kenny. That council approved the minutes as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's report. On Wednesday, December 8th, CAO Manoj Dalwaria, Economic Development Manager Marco Marino, and I met with the Director of Economic Development, George Spezza, and Manager of Strategic Initiatives, Valerie Coons from the Niagara region. We discussed our growth and related economic development opportunities in the City of Thorold, as well as the importance of partnering, collaboration, and working together to move the city and the region forward. On Friday, December 10th, Councillor Neal and I met the Great Holiday Food Drive bus at Foodland in the Pine Plaza. Thank you, Foodland. Thorold Owner-Manager Todd Marr, Community Care Thorold Branch Manager Maxine Hutchings, the event volunteers, and most importantly, all the residents who once again stepped up when needed most to make this food drive a major success. On Monday, December 13th, I attended the holiday gift box delivery to Public Works and Community Services and the 25 years of service recognition for Public Works employee Luigi Sabatini. CAO Manoj Dalwaria, Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman, as well as city staff were in attendance. On Friday, December 17th, Manoj Dalwaria, Tessa Bonacor, Kerry Gruel, and I handed out holiday gift boxes at City Hall and recognized Carmela DePardo, Legislative Assistant Clerk's Department, who is retiring. All the best, Carmela, on your well-deserved retirement. You will be missed. On Tuesday, December 14th, CAO Manoj Dalwaria, Economic Development Manager Marco Marino, and I met with Senior Business Advisor for Niagara of the Ontario Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Marika Swain. We had a productive conversation on potential funding sources for business and industry. Kudos to 9-year-old Jack Hurst for once again running the Share the Warmth project. He collected new and gently used winter clothing, new socks, as well as he went shopping for supplies that are greatly needed with the financial contributions he received. Thank you to all those who donated to this great cause. Thank you, Jack Hurst, for spearheading this amazing initiative. And Jack is from Port Robinson. The charities he distributed to this year were Toolbox Niagara, Niagara Dream Center, Westview Center for Women, and Niagara's Mobile Closet. Thank you, Thorold Fire and Emergency Services, for once again holding their annual holiday food drive at Foodland in the Pine Plaza on Saturday, December 18th and Sunday, December 19th, in the support of community care. Once again, a great response from our community for this important initiative. As well, thank you to the Thorold professional firefighters who supported Ronald McDonald's House by feeding 40 families. Also under Thorold Fire and Emergency Services are Firefighters Service Awards. 20-year service recipients were Jim Brown, Kevin Thompson, and Jim Colavecchia. 25-year service recipients, Kevin Watt and Barry Smith. 35-year service recipients, Dino Lafrada, Dave Thompson, and Cliff Youngblood. On behalf of Thorold City Council, I would like to thank each of you for all you do and the sacrifices you make to keep us safe. We are greatly indebted to you for your willingness to serve and protect the community and residents of the City of Thorold. Once again, thank you. The Shop Local campaign has begun, and it coincides with the holiday shopping season as well as our Festival of Lights, which runs until January 2nd. It is especially important this year as our small businesses have been severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, retail shops, restaurants, and service industry, and need our support. A great way to do that is to patronize these businesses during the holiday shopping season. Take time to view the new video released by our BIA to promote downtown Thorold, showcasing the downtown area and all it has to offer. The Holiday Skate with Santa was held on Saturday, December 18th at the Thorold Arena from 12:30 to 4 p.m. Thank you to Special Events Committee led by Chair Sebastian Socio Marandola, as well as the City of Thorold led by Program Supervisor Community Services Stephanie Jarvis for partnering to organize and run this successful community event. City staff once again came together to support community care by raising over $650 in gift cards for the Adopt an Angel program, along with their annual holiday food drive. There have been many examples across our community over the holiday season of generosity and our residents stepping up to help those in need. On Friday, December 17th, the province announced stricter public health safety measures to combat the Omicron variant. Detailed information is available on the provincial and Niagara Region website. As well, on Friday, Dr. Hergy held a public health COVID-19 status update where he discussed the reproductive rate of the Omicron variant, which they have at 4.5, the importance of following public health safety measures, and the opening up of more vaccine clinic dates. And today, the region also publicized that they opened more dates. So keep checking the Niagara Region website for updates. And they constantly are adding new vaccine dates to the list, which would then go on the provincial booking portal. Through the efforts of our EOC group led by Fire Chief Terry Dixon, Regional Councillor Tim Whalen, and the generosity generosity of Our Lady of the Holy Rosary Parish, we were able to secure 2 GoVax vaccination clinics this week. The first one was held today, and the next one is tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Holy Rosary Parish Hall. There will be 2 more dates next week on December 26th and 27th. And we're hoping to get other dates into the new year. Dates and times to be determined and will be communicated once confirmed, and these will be available on the city Facebook and page. You'll be able to see them, as well as it'll be communicated on our website. These are pop-up style clinics, and I know there was some issues today. A lot of people left that weren't able to get vaccinated, but we're hoping that we can continue down this path and it gets better as we go along. I don't know if Chief Dixon, did you want to comment at all on that before I finish up my mayor's remarks?
Yeah, sure, I can do that, Mayor, for you to council, just to keep everybody up to date. The clinic started this morning. We were there at 8 o'clock this morning, and went very, very well, considering we were short some vaccinators at the very beginning of our clinic. I want to put some rumors to rest that we never ever run out of vaccines. This is put on by the Canadian Red Cross, and they're a very well organized organization that put this clinic on, that is putting these clinics on. And we were short vaccinators at the beginning, but by 11 o'clock we had our 3 vaccinators back in place. And when I left today at about 4:30, we were around 200 vaccinations in place, so we should be close to 250 vaccinations by the end of the day at 6 o'clock today. And they will be starting again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So when people were asked maybe to come back, they were trying to give time frames so it would stop people from having to wait outside so long in the cool weather to come back around this certain amount of time. They have everything spaced out in a time frame so they know how many vaccinations they can do in an hour. But just so everybody's aware, there's no vaccine shortage. There's lots of vaccines to go around, and they're looking forward to tomorrow as well.
Thank you, Chief Dixon. And again, as I mentioned, there's also more vaccine dates that were issued out today. I don't know if they're fully booked up yet, but keep checking on the Niagara Region website and the provincial vaccine portal. Okay, please be advised that the City of Thorold municipal offices will be closed from December 24th, 2021 until January 2nd, 2022. Municipal offices will open at 8:30 a.m. on January 3rd, 2022. In closing, once again, please continue to follow all the public health safety measures. And on behalf of council and city staff, I would like to wish everyone warmest thoughts and best wishes for a joyous holiday season, Merry Christmas, and a happy, healthy New Year. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. And now we're going to move on to Regional Councillor update. And Regional Councillor Tim Whalen is here today to give us an update on the region and the Thorold Runway of Recognition Committee. Go ahead, Councillor Whalen, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Mayor Ugolini and fellow councillors. It's a pleasure to be here once again this evening on behalf of the region of Niagara. Tonight, I'd like to cover the accomplishments of the Regional Council for the past 3 years of our term up to today, as well as highlight the regional budget for the 2022 fiscal year. So I'd like to start off by showing a small video. So hopefully the technical gods are with me so I can publicize this properly. So let's give it a shot.
The last little while has been hectic for all of us. While you've been busy taking care of your family, your friends, and yourself, we've been busy too, whether you know it or not. Let's take the next 2 minutes and 35 seconds to learn just some of the ways Niagara Region is here for you. First, we're taking steps to make Niagara a more welcoming community for everyone. Last September, we joined UNESCO's Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, a sign of our commitment to promote inclusion and end racism and discrimination. With more people moving to the region, after discovering all that we have to offer, our housing prices have started to get pretty steep. We're adapting, working hard to make sure everyone has a place to call home. We have made sure housing affordability is a central part of our long-term plans. And in partnership with both the nonprofit and private sector, we are leveraging every opportunity to bring more rental units to the market. We know there's more to do, and this remains a top priority. We're also here for our seniors. We're investing more than $175 million into the redevelopment of 2 regional long-term care homes. When completed, these will be world-class facilities built to serve the most experienced residents of Niagara. The health of all our residents is a top priority. We're doing our part by contributing $55 million to support 2 new hospitals to be built by the province. We're also here for you every garbage day. We heard your waste collection woes and made some big changes, ensuring your stuff is picked up on time. And since putting our new collection guidelines into place, there has been a 24% increase in green bin use, while keeping an additional 12,000 tons of garbage out of our landfills. Because we know the internet is for more than just binging your favorite shows, we've secured more than $20 million to help expand high-speed internet into our rural communities, supporting economic growth. And we are supporting Niagara's business through targeted grant programs. Since 2018, we have helped to create and retain 996 jobs across the entire region. We're also finding new and innovative ways to be there for you. Last year, we launched an on-demand transit service to provide public transportation to more of Niagara. Since we launched, over 36,000 rides have been completed, with more trips being booked every day. When it comes to COVID-19, we've stepped up to do our part. The regional team, led by our public health department, has put more than 250,000 doses of life-saving COVID-19 vaccines into residents' arms. Together with Niagara Health, pharmacies, and local doctors, more than 700,000 doses have been given. With more than 90% of our staff being involved in essential work, the Niagara Region team continued to be there for you. Whether it's serving our seniors, responding to an emergency, providing daycare, maintaining our roads, or keeping your drinking water safe, we haven't missed a beat. Oh, time's up. This was just a small sample of the many ways we're here for you. Get all the details by visiting niagararegion.ca/priorities and see how the region is delivering on what matters most.
Are you struggling to lose weight no matter how much you diet? It's your fault, and this might be the most important video you have ever watched.
Shut it up, Councillor Whalen.
Over 52,000 men and women revealed one common factor in every overweight person.
So hopefully everybody was able to see that okay.
I know, but something's still running in the background.
Yeah, trying to kill it if you don't mind. Bear with me a bit.
Just throw it on the floor. Look, it's not up on its own.
The last little while has been hectic for all of us. While you've been busy taking care of your family, your friends, and yourself, hectic for all of us. While you've been...
Sorry about the technical difficulties there. Hopefully everybody was able to see that. I didn't think the technical gods would be with me that long, but thankfully they are. Anyhow, go a little bit further. I'd like to reiterate some of the tasks and the accomplishments that the region council has done over the past 3 years. So first of all, I'd like to just say that in our governance, we restored the region's public reputation by implementing all the recommendations found in the provincial ombudsman report on contentious hiring of former staff. This was a challenge at start, but we stabilized the organization by filling senior management positions, including hiring a permanent CAO, Director of Economic Development, and Commissioner of Planning. We protect the region against future controversy by passing new policies regarding recruitment, conflicts of interest, and codes of ethics. We committed to openness by continuing to publish all councillors' expenses online, and we ensure that councillors are held accountable for their behavior by actively participating in provincial consultations about codes of conduct. Further on in our term, or I guess towards the beginning also, we took steps to protect the Niagara's natural environment by revamping the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. The authority's board of directors were revamped to ensure that members of the public who sit on the board have relevant expertise. From there, we promoted transparent and open government. The region ranked third in the public sector's digest as Canada's top 20 most open cities and observed a 30% decrease in the freedom of information requests from the public. During our term in the last 3 years, we invested in our community. We secured almost $9 million to expand broadband internet to Niagara's rural communities. We invested in Niagara Senior Citizens, committing over $175 million to redevelop 2 long-term care homes in St. Catharines and Fort Erie. We addressed Niagara's housing crisis by building over 200 new affordable housing units across the region. And we increased the use of green bin program by 34%, introducing an every other week waste collection. We ensured access to state-of-the-art healthcare by investing over $60 million in West Lincoln Memorial Hospital and in Niagara Falls Hospital and new hospice Niagara. We made our streets safer by implementing the red light cameras, photo radar, and community safety zone as part of the Vision Zero initiative. And I believe that Director Ryle is here tonight from the region to give us an overview on the program. And finally, we set to host our country in 2022 Summer Games while delivering a major legacy project across the region. Managing the impacts of COVID-19 and planning our recovery, we secured almost $36 million in COVID-19 relief funding for the region of Niagara, ensuring service continuity without raising property taxes. We administered more than 500,000 of doses of COVID-19 vaccinations to date in an effort to help the pandemic. So I move on to our budget that we approved last week. We approved the 2022 regional budget. Our council approved the expenditure increase of $23 million. The net increase totals $17 million, which minimizes the property tax increases for the people of Niagara at 2.87%. The average Niagara property in the regional tax bill will be increased by $46 annually, or $3.83 monthly. Some of the highlights of our budget increase will include a $20.2 million key investments, such as $2.3 million towards bridge and housing, permanent supportive housing, $4.7 million to support infrastructure, $800,000 towards tax incremental grants and Smarter Niagara incentives, and $1.9 million towards local hospital and hospice development contributions. The operating budget for 2022 contains a tax levy of $422.3 million, which funds daily business of Niagara region, its boards and agencies. A few of the key initiatives that will have major influence on Thorold are $88.8 million going to South Niagara Falls wastewater treatment plant, which will support the south end of Thorold and make things a lot better for everybody in that area, as well as to open up the whole area also. $8.3 million next year will go towards the Beaver Dam sewage pumping station upgrades and replacement. This will open up the area along Beaver Dams Road, which housing was dependent on this project going forward. We had $19.5 million to the Q Water Treatment Plant 3 sustainability upgrades. $31.5 million for the Mott Roads capacity improvement to support the growth in South Niagara, which supports the hospital and everything around that area. Plus, we're hopeful that the bridge over the Ellenberg Highway 20 aqueduct will be replaced. We're also hopeful that this council will vote in favor towards a triple majority tonight, backing the region and implementation of the regional transit that will enhance all of Niagara. I look forward to the presentation later on this evening from Matt Robinson. Matt is the director of the GO implementation for the region of Niagara. Thank you for your indulgence for tonight, and I'd be happy to ask any questions you might have.
So I'll open the floor for questions for Councillor Whalen. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose, you're up.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I'm seeing triples of people and doubles. Hi, Councillor Whalen, thanks for coming. Wish your family a Merry Christmas for me. Having taught your kids and grandkids, give them my best.
Thank you.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. Councillor Whalen, just a couple of things. Can you just update us on the cost overruns for the Canada Summer Games?
Of course, I guess you know from the beginning that there's no extra cost back to the taxpayer of Thorold. Of course, there is tax runs override for the region, which the prior council committed. And I believe it's Councillor Evelyn, you can back me on this also because you were part of it along with Councillor Caney. I believe it's about 24 million. Is that not correct?
I'm not sure. I can tell you that, Councillor Whalen.
Don't just be like Councillor back to tell you exactly what it is be like.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Whalen. Councillor Whalen, the other thing, I'm just starting to learn more about what's going on at the region as far as staffing, and I'm just a little concerned that I know it's great to add jobs to our economy, but I would be more inclined to favor private sector positions over public sector, and I'm really surprised now that there's almost 4,000 employees at the region. Our regional councillors debriefed about newly created positions. Do you guys have a say in that or no?
Yeah, as far as expenses are, we don't micromanage them, keep it up to staff, but we definitely do control the finances, yes.
Okay. Councillor Whelan, what's the regional debt at this point? I know it was closing in on $500 million a couple of years ago. Do you have just approximation?
Tell you, I don't know the exact amount, but I can get back to you on that, Councillor Gross.
I know last I heard it was closed. That's my one concern, is that I think they're hiring too many people, and some of the job descriptions that I see are just, to me, are beyond me. But and people have to realize half our taxes do go to the region. The other thing is I'm looking for your support on our increase in policing, our request, and also with what's coming up with our Vision Zero presentation tonight. Just a photo radar. I know there's going to be added costs for Thorold for this program, and at this point, I don't think they have any photo radar yet for Thorold. So I'm just looking for your support, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, 100% definitely. We do need the policing, and of course, this 2.87% includes additional policing for the region as well as Thorold also, Councillor DeRose. So that is being looked at also.
And just to let you know, Councillor DeRose, as a result of our letter to the police board agreed not only to come to the city of Thorold, but to go around to all the municipalities, okay?
That's right.
So we will be getting a visit at some point, and I would suggest we'll be early on the list, okay? So.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Whelan.
And I'll get back to you on that total debt. And of course, you got to keep in mind also, a lot of the debt is for the lower municipalities with that also, Councillor Rose, but I'll get the full amount and I'll get back to you on that.
No, I just, you know me, I get concerned about overspending.
Oh, Devin, it's on the forefront of everybody. So it falls back on the taxpayers. You are 100% right.
Are there any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Whelan. Councillor Whelan, Merry Christmas. Thanks for coming tonight.
Same to you, Councillor Longo.
Councillor Whelan, I don't want to put you on the spot because I don't think you'll have the answers for me. But if I send you an email regarding some questions this council's trying to get answers to from the region regarding the Canada Summer Games, would you be able to look into that for me?
Yeah, anytime, Councillor. With that respect or anything else, if I can help you out, yeah, most definitely.
Okay, I'll send it off to you, and if you could just respond and let all of council know the answers, I'd appreciate it.
It's a definite yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Seeing no one else, Councillor Whelan, thank you for coming and presenting to council, and we look forward when you come, and you're welcome to come anytime in the near future and keep us updated. And just so everybody's aware, Councillor Whelan is the co-chair of the Budget Committee, and he sits on Corporate Services and Public Health at the region as well. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you don't mind, if I could flip my hats over to the Thorold Sports Runway Recognition, I'll give a little update on that also, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to let everybody know that we moved our gala dinner to the first part of June next year to hopefully get COVID out of the way, so we're realistic, as well as give a little bit more time, being that we had the delay in the 2019 ceremony over the past couple of months. So we're looking tentatively to the 6th or the 13th of June for next year. And the nominations can be sent with the applications available on the city website anytime now. So if anybody has anybody they'd like to nominate, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other than that, Mayor Ugolini, I'd like to express my wishes for a good Christmas to you and council and their families and everybody at Thorold on behalf of myself in the region of Niagara. So Merry Christmas and a prosperous and hopefully a healthy and with COVID behind us in the 2020 New Year.
Thank you so much, Councillor Whelan, and the same to you and your family.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now moving on to presentations, and today we have Stacy Veld, Superintendent of Business and Treasurer, District School Board of Niagara. And is Stacy there with us? Stacy, how are you? And welcome. And just a reminder that you have a maximum of 10 minutes for your presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will not need 10 minutes. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Stacy Veld. I'm the Superintendent of Business Services and Board Treasurer with the District School Board of Niagara. I know joining me online today are staff and students from Thorold Secondary School, including Superintendent Leanne Smith, Principal Karen Ferguson, and Athletic Coach Dwayne Kemp. We are here this evening to present a letter with an alternative option for a collaboration on a synthetic field at McMillan Park. At the May 25th, 2021 meeting, the Board of Trustees approved a multi-year capital plan and voted in favor for staff to begin discussions with the City of Thorold about the opportunity for a partnership to build a new synthetic turf field with an 8-lane rubberized track at Macmillan Park to support the students of Thorold Secondary School. The DSBN at that time submitted a letter to the Lord Mayor Ulani and members of City Council to explore an opportunity for an enhanced collaboration between our organizations. On September 28th, 2021, DSBN received a letter stating that Council had expressed some concerns about the necessity to relocate the Macmillan Park baseball diamond in order to build a field with a track. Since that time, we have continued to explore options, and on December 8th, 2021, we submitted a letter to you that you do have in your agenda with an updated alternate proposal for your consideration. This proposal would have the DSBN construct a synthetic turf field only, which would then allow for a combined baseball-football field at this park. We are looking for Council to support an opportunity for DSBN to work with your staff at the City, as well as our community partners, such as the local baseball association, to develop this property into something state-of-the-art, including updated lighting. Thank you for your consideration of this amazing opportunity for the students of Thorold Secondary School and the residents of Thorold.
Thank you so much, Stacy, and I'm going to open the floor for questions. I got Councillor Sentence up first.
Oh, Stacey, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I just have a few points to make. I'm all for anything that makes Thorold High more viable in the future in case, schools close or something happens. So I'm a graduate of there, and I hope we can work something out. Just a few things that I saw on there that the baseball people reached out to me about. They would like to see the infield turfed as well. They have no problem with that, and so would I, just from a maintenance type of scenario. So if you could keep that in mind when you're going into further detail, I'd appreciate it. It'd be nice if our workers did the equipment and everything for it, the City of Thorold. That would be appreciated. Thorold Soccer, they kind of need to be part of this too. I know that's on us once you build it, but they have nowhere. Councillor DeRose can tell you, they have nowhere May, June to practice or train or anything. The CE Grossfield is underwater half the time. So if they can be part of that too, I would appreciate it. Any other thing?
Sorry. Yes, absolutely. We do have many partnerships with soccer in other municipalities that use our synthetic turf, and it does really extend the playing time for them. So absolutely.
Thorold High has soccer too, wouldn't they? Yeah. Okay. That's it. So I'm excited about this if it can all be worked out, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I got Councillor Decker, and then Councillor Wilson, and then I got Councillor DeRose as well. Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Stacy, for coming. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I just wondered, have you had anyone from the baseball committee collaborate with you on this venture so that it doesn't affect, our Macmillan Park baseball field? Like, has that happened, or are you willing to have them collaborate with you going forward?
So absolutely, Councillor, thank you for the question. I do know that our athletic department at Thorold Secondary School has been in conversation with the Baseball Association, and what we are really looking for at this point is the council approval to do this. So I, at DSBN, have not had specific conversations. It would certainly be the intention that we would work collaboratively with them as our next steps in this process.
Councillor Decker, that's correct.
As well as soccer.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that would be great to collaborate with both the baseball and the soccer committee so that it benefits everybody in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Decker. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter, Stacy. Stacy, I noticed in the letter, hopefully you can hear me okay? Yes? Okay, good. I noticed in the letter that it stated the relocation of a splash pad, but in the picture it didn't really look like there was a location for it there, so I'm assuming to relocate it to another area completely. So what would be the plan about that so that we're not taking away the service from our residents in that area?
I can answer that, Councillor Wilson. That would be part of the next step, where then it would come back, there would be an intensive step there, and all that would be addressed at that point. This is just, tonight, if we're moving forward to do that step, to get to that step.
Okay, but then who would incur the cost of that relocation? Would that be on the city or would that be shared with DSBN?
That is, again, part of that discussion. I know that the DSBN has said they'd be a willing partner to sit down and discuss that. Am I correct, Stacy?
Yes, absolutely. We will definitely collaborate with the staff at the City of Thorold on that.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're just asking for council's approval to continue the discussion, but we're not actually agreeing to anything at this point.
That's correct.
Okay.
Councillor DeRose. Go ahead.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thanks, Stacy. Thank you, Stacy, for being here. I know it's a busy time of the year. This is an important endeavor. Having played sports in Thorold all my life, I think it's a great thing for the community and Thorold High. Of course, I do have many questions that I think I would love addressed at the next time someone from your end is presenting. First of all, having talked to Chris Green and Gene Citrigno, president of TAA Baseball and Thorold Minor Soccer, having them in the loop, like you said, it sounds like you've already, I know you've had some meetings with Chris, and I think, or Thorold High has anyway. So I think that's a great step to try to alleviate any concerns they might have with operating for the kids at Thorold. So that's a great, and as long as they continue in good faith discussions, I'm all supportive. My other thing is most of the things have been asked, like Councillor Wilson just asked, just the cost to the city, the maintenance costs, the operating expenses, and you know, questions like, is the field going to be free to be rented to city groups such as a TAA or Thorold, and just things of that nature, the business end of it. But I think it's a great endeavor, and any details that can be provided at the next approach to the city after discussions would be great. But my biggest one again is just having Chris Green and Gene Citrigno, the presidents of TAA and Baseball, and Gene Citrigno, president of Thorold Minor Soccer, in the loop as to any suggestions they may have or requirements that can be accommodated. Thank you, Stacy. I don't know if you can offer anything. I know I've said a whole bunch of stuff, but anything you can offer is appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think another partner that would like to be involved would be the senior ball team as well. Anyway, any further questions for Stacy? Go ahead, Councillor Neal, and then Councillor Longo after that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this is a wonderful program and a step forward, and I can't see it not happening. But of course, as a number of councillors have already stated, that we want to make sure that all the partners in the equation and that will be part of that field are put on a committee to discuss all the aspects moving forward of what has to be put into the park. My question maybe to council and to the mayor is, what is the next steps?
So
we've all been talking here.
Yeah.
But what are the next steps? Because I'm sure the DSBN would like to see this happen sooner than later.
Okay, so there's a two-pronged thing here. First would be a reconsideration, and then we move on to the motion, which we'll discuss after that, and then that will get the ball rolling, Councillor. And then you can ask questions at that point as well. So,
thank you.
Okay, Councillor Longo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. I won't rehash the collaboration we need. Just a few questions from the school board standpoint. Is this project going to be funded by the school board? Is that the intention?
Go ahead.
Sorry, if I may respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, councillor. Yes, the trustees did approve this capital investment to support our students of Thorold Secondary School. We have constructed 9 synthetic turf and tracks, various, whether it be for football or specifically for soccer, for all of our schools, and we would love to bring this opportunity to the students at Thorold Secondary School. So trustees have approved the funding of this synthetic turf.
So through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
so the funding would be 100% done by the DSBN. So this would be, there'd be no financial commitment to the city of Thorold for the capital?
Certainly what we would like to do is put together a memorandum of understanding with your staff, similar to what we have done in other instances. But yes, the actual capital construction cost of the synthetic turf, including the lights, and the portion that would be needed for the baseball would be funded by the DSBN.
Okay, and my final question, just being familiar with the area, growing up in the area, there's a substantial grade difference where you propose to put the football field, and I mean substantial. It probably drops from 8 feet to maybe 10 feet. Has that been taken into consideration from an engineering standpoint? Is this even possible? And I'm not trying to throw cold water on it. It just looks substantial in terms of the work that would need to be done.
Yes, if I may, through you, Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, we have actually done that. We do have a consultant that we have used in our 9 other fields that we have. It has been brought to our attention and advised that there is a significant work that needs to be done. So yes, we have taken that into consideration. It is possible. There's always a cost factor that we certainly will explore and take back to our trustees, but we are prepared to proceed. The intention is to provide a proper sized football field that obviously can be used for both football and soccer. But in order to do that, it has to be laid out in the concept drawing, and we'll continue to explore all of those details with our consultants when we receive approval to be able to proceed.
Thank you. What I'm hearing sounds great.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. I got Councillor Kenny. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for the city. I'm a little bit troubled by most of the councillors are saying, are they going to foot the whole bill? I would be in favor of, if Thorold Baseball and Thorold Soccer and some of the other organizations were getting some playing time in there, and we had to build extra dressing rooms, extra scoreboards, extra bullpens, stuff like that, I think the city should step up and not send a message that we're looking for a complete freebie when these people meet. I think it's a bad message. Anyway, that's just my point of view, and like I say, I'd be willing to budget some money toward bullpens and different things that we've been talking about for a long time.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Stacy, thank you for your presentation. This is a two-stage process. If council wants to reopen the debate on the existing lease agreement, then a motion to reconsider is required with a 2/3 vote. And I need a mover and seconder, and then we'll get on to the motion, and then we can talk about the motion. Okay, can I get a mover, Councillor Longo, and a seconder, Councillor Decker? And that's that council requests the reconsideration of a resolution regarding the potential... Hello? Potential sale or disposition of land turf field development from September 1st, 2021 to direct the Director of Public Works and Community Services to renew the terms of the existing lease. And that was from that meeting. So I got a mover, Councillor Longo, and a seconder, Councillor Decker. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay. Now, if that passes, we need a mover and a seconder, and I'll put the, am I correct here? And I'll ask our city clerk. I want to make sure I'm following procedure correctly. So that is passed, that we're reconsidering that, and now we're moving on to the new motion. Am I correct?
Through the mayor, that's correct.
Okay. I need a mover and a seconder, and then I'll read that. I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor DeRose. Okay. and it is that staff be directed to work with the DSBN to initiate a public consultation process with the local community, residents, and potential user groups regarding DSBN's artificial turf proposal at McMillan Park, and that staff be directed to prepare a report recommending a further course of action upon completion of the public consultation process. Now I'll open that up. If anyone wants to have a discussion on that, go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
I just forgot, through you, Mr. Mayor, earlier you mentioned the anchors, the senior team. They are hosting the, so they will need to be in on the discussions because they're hosting the OBAs next year and I believe the year after, but timing for them would be everything. They'd have to readjust. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else want to speak to that? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I just want to state my concern about the splash pad. I guess what I don't want to see happen is for our staff to work with them and that to be like the last thought and not part of the plan. I think that relocation has to be very much a part of the plan to actually put the turf in and do that. I don't think they're separate things.
No, I
would
agree.
expect both of those to come back to council, so it's a decision because that affects other community members in that area, right? So I just want to make sure that that's going to be part of that plan initially, not an afterthought. Not a negotiation of, oh, let's say we'll pay half, but we have no idea where the splash pad's going to go. It's going to take 3 to 5 years to happen. I don't want to see that happen. So that's my comment.
And it is a very good comment, well taken, and that has been addressed in their letter to council about the splash pad, and the splash pad's an important component in all this for sure, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Longo, I seen your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with what Councillor Wilson's saying. We need to make sure that everything's covered here in detail. And I also want to make sure that in no way are we bound to move forward, no matter what the negotiations are. Nobody needs to come back to us and say, well, you said you would. I just want to make sure that's loud and clear that these are just preliminary discussions, because this could be potentially very expensive. And we need to make sure as a council and city, we can afford to move this project forward, because as you know, we have a lot of other things on the burner right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Point well taken and duly noted. Anyone else? Councillor Neal.
Yeah, just maybe timing is everything, and should we put a time frame on this so that it can be moved whichever way it happens, it can move forward?
Well, I would think that it should move forward in a timely fashion. Is Jeff Holman on, Director of Public Works and Community Services? Jeff, could you comment on the timing or what you think that this would require?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's possible to move quickly on this. The key is finding the proper way to engage the community in these discussions. We can talk to the presidents of the user groups, associations, and get their feedback. But because of the location and the history of McMillan, the use of McMillan Park, the community, the residents that live around it, how they use the amenities that are there, we're going to need to get some feedback from them. And I'm not sure that, our typical public information center would be available to us early in January, given the COVID situation. We'll work on this over the holidays and try and come up with an effective plan. And the hope is that we could get back to this council in February or March with an update, at least to get some ideas to whether or not we can move quickly on this.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that good, Councillor Neal?
Yeah, that's good. The sooner the better, and make sure that everybody comes to the table, both the two baseball people and the soccer people.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I had a mover, Councillor Sentence, seconder to Councillor DeRose. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Motion to receive and file minutes or adopt recommendations of council, committees, and boards. Minutes to review for information purposes, moved by Councillor Sentence, seconded by Councillor Longo, that council receive and file the minutes of the committees of council local boards as presented 12A1 Heritage Thorold Lacac. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Statement by councillor. I have councillor Sentence, request for additional information regarding Char Technologies. And I have a mover, councillor Sentence, seconder, councillor Kenny, and I'll turn this over to councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say something beforehand, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I've been educated lately by a lot of smart people, emails and on the phone about wind patterns and leftover residue and how it's transported. I know you guys went through this before. This time we take it back and ask Char to come and do some presentations, detailed presentations, so that people can ask questions and get some information. You know, I was going by what they were saying, no emissions or anything like that. So I think we need to do put the brakes on this a little bit and then bring them in. So moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kenny. Whereas Council provided a resolution of support in principle to Char Technologies for their Thorold biomass pyrolysis project / biomass to renewable natural gas and biocarbon at their December 7th, 2021 regular meeting of Council for a funding application. And whereas Char Technologies are required to satisfy all zoning requirements and require final approval from TSSA and MECP. Whereas Council recognizes the need for further consultation with the public in relation to the Char Technologies proposal. Therefore be it resolved that Council direct the Mayor's office to prepare a letter on behalf of Council requesting that Char Technologies host a series of public awareness meetings to educate the community on their proposal and process.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on that? Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As part of the public process, because we haven't got the information from London yet, is that I would like to see them be part of the public process, not just sending in information to us, but be part of the public process, whether it be the mayor of the City of London, the engineering person, in order for us to ask questions on what has transpired in London with Char Industries, and that be part of the process. And I like where we're going. I think we need to do it. I think we maybe stumbled a little bit at the last meeting and weren't prepared when we should have been. And all of us have talked or been in contact with a number of residents and people that are out there that make sound like they're experts, but maybe not. And I think we need all the information we can get and come to a good decision on whether to move forward with this or not.
Thank you, Councillor. I had Councillor DeRose. Did you have your hand up?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Sentence, for bringing this forward. And I still have, I want to go a little further, and for these reasons, due to the fact that we didn't follow procedural bylaw at the last meeting, due to the fact I feel due diligence was not done, due to the fact that I have been provided with some new information in regard to Char Technologies, due to the fact that, in my opinion, this should go back to the region for expert opinion analysis. I wanted to ask for a reconsideration vote until we have more information provided on supporting this in principle.
I'll turn this over to Joanne. Joanne, go ahead.
Sure, through the mayor to members of council. I'm not sure where the question with regards to following procedures arise from, as council did approve the agenda with the report coming out on the Monday prior to the meeting, just as we have with every other report that has been added to an addendum. With regards to a reconsideration, that is not up for debate right now. It would be part of a notice of motion that would have to come at a later date. Additionally, when you are doing a reconsideration, council has to consider whether or not part or any part of a motion has already been carried out, and that is something that we probably have to seek legal advice on.
Okay.
So through you, Mr. Merritt, so you're saying we can't have a reconsideration vote right now?
She
Through the
said,
Merit member of council, we can support council in any decision that we make, but we do have to follow through with legal counsel just because part of the motion has already been carried out.
so you're saying then that it would have to be a notice of motion, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, Councillor DeRose, are you good with that?
Not really, because I'm confused about it, but you know, I'll go by the clerk's experience and expertise, but I don't understand why it gets into legalities now, because all we've done is supported this in principle, I assume. So I don't know why we can reconsider other things, but not this. Especially when it seems like the cart went ahead of the horses here, because what Councillor Sentence is bringing up is brilliant. Let's get public consultation. Before we make a decision like this, why wasn't the public consulted first in open discussions? That's my question. So I'm confused.
And that's fine, Councillor. And she said that that can be done with a notice of motion. This motion is the motion that's on the floor for tonight's meeting. Am I correct? And I'll ask the clerk once again.
Through the Merit members of council, that is correct.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, could I just ask you a quick, when would I be able to do the notice of motion?
Next council meeting. Well, you have to bring it up under notice of motion. You'll bring that request forward, okay?
Next meeting.
No, but you'll bring the request forward tonight that you're bringing notice of motion, okay?
Okay, so can I do that right now? Or?
No, you'll do it at the proper point in the agenda, okay? Councillor Wilson.
In closing my comment, I will support Councillor Sentence and what he's asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can we not waive the procedural bylaws so that Councillor DeRose does not have to do a notice of motion since it is timely? I think that's appropriate in this scenario where us as a council can vote to waive that procedure so he can bring his motion forward this evening instead of giving a notice and then doing it last week. Especially part of it has already been conducted, because I'm sure all the councillors have gotten the various phone calls and emails about concerned citizens. And I think that though, with all due respect, maybe there wasn't anything illegally done or without it, not illegally, but without the proper process and putting that in the agenda last council meeting, but there was a lot of information in that lost agenda with like pages upon hundreds of pages of reports and things that we had to look at from a council. So adding that in on a Monday didn't really give, it certainly did cross my radar. So I'm in support of both Councillor Sentence and Councillor DeRose, because I think we should be waiving that so that we can do what we need to do to stop what's happened so far and reevaluate.
Yeah, no problem, Councillor Wilson. I'll ask the clerk again if that's the procedure we can follow.
Sure, through the Merit members of council, we could do that at the time of the notice of motion. If council wishes, we can waive procedural bylaw to allow notice of motion for the purposes of a matter that is of urgent nature. And at that time, it would probably be best for the planning department to be able to speak to some of the issues around that as well.
That's good. So we'll do it under, it will be brought forward under notice of motion, Councillor Wilson and Councillor DeRose, okay? And I'll turn it over to, is that fine? Are you good with that? Okay, Councillor Longo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just need some clarity here. Obviously, I can't ask for a reconsideration because I didn't vote in favor of this 2 weeks ago. But I'm a little concerned at the explanation we're getting regarding reconsideration here. 10 minutes ago, we reconsidered a motion for the turf field at McMillan Park. And now we're being told we can't reconsider this motion because it can only be done under notice of motion. I really don't see what the difference is between the two. And again, we had somebody show up at a meeting today and we reconsidered, but a councillor can't ask for a reconsideration and is being told they have to do backflips to do it.
Okay.
And I believe what Councillor Wilson's saying is right also, that we can waive procedural bylaw right now. We don't have to wait till later in the meeting. If she wishes to do that and reconsider it, she can do that. And unless I'm wrong, or if somebody wants to tell me why I'm wrong, I'll listen to your explanation, but we're contradicting exactly what we just said now.
Okay, Councillor Longo, we'll let the clerk answer that.
Sure, of course, through the mayor to members of council, understanding that understanding procedures and procedural gymnastics is a little bit difficult for some. What happened with the other presentation that came on board was, at that time, there was a reconsideration for a motion and council waived the procedure bylaw. If you look at the agenda and the procedure bylaw, the notices of motion is at the end of the agenda. So I'm not saying that you cannot do it. I'm saying that you would wait until the notice of motion period at the end of the agenda. If council wishes to discuss it right now, you can waive procedural bylaw to amend the agenda to bring up the notice of motion portion on section 17 of the agenda to discuss it now. No way did I say that you cannot reconsider a motion. What I am saying is you have to follow proper procedure to do so.
But excuse me, but how did we do that 10 minutes ago when we waived procedure, when we reconsidered the DSBN turf field? How did we do the same thing? I'm confused.
That's right. So through the mayor to members of council, what you would be bringing forward is a notice of motion for the next meeting. What you did at the presentation time was reconsider a previous motion. So if you look at the agenda, section 17 states a notice of motion. Right now we're on statements by councillors.
I understand that. You don't understand me. Thank you.
Are you good with that, Councillor Long?
No, I'm not good with that at all, but I can't say much more because I voted against this project from the beginning. So I'll sit and wait. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do find that confusing as well, because I don't understand why you can't reconsider at this time a motion that we voted on previously. So am I allowed then, Mr. Mayor, to ask that we do a procedural bylaw, so we bring it forward from section 17, I think that's the right one, and vote on reconsideration now?
We have to go through 3 steps. The agenda, right? Am I correct? 3?
Yeah, through the mayor to members of council, because there is a motion on the floor being from Councillor Sentence, you'd have to deal with that motion first. Then if there is a reconsideration of the agenda, you would have to bring forth a motion to amend the agenda as previously adopted to move up section 17 notice of motion to this period in the agenda, then do a reconsideration, and then have a proper motion.
Okay, so if we vote on Councillor Sentence's now, and then we reconsider this same motion later, are we going to have issues if we vote for Councillor Sentence, his motion now, and then later reconsider something we've just made a motion on?
Through the mayor to members of council, no, because Councillor Sentence's motion is with regards to some additional information that is being requested by Char Technologies. With regards to the motion that I'm understanding that members of council wishes to discuss, that is something that planning will have to speak to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we're voting on the motion on the floor. Am I correct? Okay. So the motion on the floor is what we're voting on now. And it was mover Councillor Sentence, seconder Councillor Kenny. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Councillor Long.
Yes, point of clarification, please. Why was Councillor Sentence, and I agree with what he's trying to do, but why was he allowed to bring a motion forward tonight rather than having to bring it down to section 17, which is a notice of motion, because his motion was not in writing tonight. The first time I saw or heard that motion was 5 minutes ago. So why is that motion allowed to come forward in our meeting at this time rather than give warning to both councillors and the public at large about a motion that's coming forward? Could I get clarity on that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Through the members of council, it's in accordance with your procedural bylaw. So these are one of the issues that I'd like to address in the procedural bylaw, the difference between a statement by councillor and a notice of motion. So that's something that I hope to address as I do a full review of the procedural bylaw to fill in those gaps and where those contradictions lie.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So basically what you're saying is this is, I guess we can pick and choose when we want to call it a statement by councillor to basically slide in a quick motion rather than do it the proper procedural way, which is to give council and the public warning on what's being discussed at city council meetings. Because in all due respect, again, Councillor Sentence, I agree with what you're trying to do. I support it. But again, there's no public input here. People have no idea that this has come forward. So I think we really need to tighten up the rules. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
If I could just make comment on that, I think what has been happening in the past is that you could make a statement under statement by councillors, and then Councillor Sentence should have to ask for us to waive the procedural bylaw for him to bring the motion forward this meeting, which I believe we skipped that step, but that's what should happen. That's what's happened in the past if we want to put a motion on the floor under statement by councillor. So it's not that you should be allowed to bring a motion up. First, council has to vote that we're allowing him to bring this motion forward. That's how it's been happening for the last 3 years, or since we've Donna made this change previously. Otherwise, you have to wait till notice of motion, give the notice, and then the next meeting you do that. I don't necessarily want to get rid of that process, Joanne, because when there's something that's very time sensitive, we do need to bring something up. We can always wait, 2 weeks to be able to bring a motion forward. So I think that's a step that's missing at this point, that Councillor Sutton should ask to waive that procedural bylaw, and then we vote on his motion.
Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I was certainly not trying to slide something into so that the people wouldn't see it. It's the opposite. We were getting all our emails, all our calls, all our everything. I'm trying to reassure people that, okay, it's time sensitive, so they're not worried about this like they are, so that they can see that we're going to be bringing people in. So it was kind of the opposite is what my intention was, is to make sure that people knew that we were going to do this for them in a timely manner. I certainly wasn't trying to, so nobody would see this. I want everyone to see this. So just in case anybody needed that clarity.
Thank you. So the city clerk, do you want to waive the procedure bylaw, or can we just vote on this?
Through the mayor to members of council, as I'm reviewing the procedural bylaw, again, this is something that we've done in previous practice, what I've been following with the rules that are constrained to me and council with regard to the procedural bylaw. So I'm looking here, and we are following the proper rules. Again, it's one of my tasks to make sure that we have a procedural bylaw that isn't contradictory and is something that works for council with proper procedure.
So so we can vote on this then, is what you're saying. But I do agree. I think that something like these type of motions should be a statement, shouldn't be statement by councillors. As we move forward with fixing the procedure bylaw, I think they should be under notices of motion. Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. I really, but that's something we need to correct for sure. Okay. So the motion's on the floor. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just, again, could I have it repeated one more time if we're going to vote on it? I'd like to, since I can't read it, it's not here.
Yes.
I'd like to know exactly what.
I get Councillor Sentence to read his motion one more time. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kenny. Whereas council provided a resolution of support in principle to Char Technologies for the thorough biomass pyrolysis project, biomass to renewable natural gas and biocarbon, at their December 7th, 2021 regular meeting of council for a funding application, and whereas Char Technologies are required to satisfy to all zoning requirements and require final approval from TSSA and MECP Whereas council recognizes the need for further consultation with the public in relation to Char Technologies proposal. Therefore, be it resolved that council direct the mayor's office to prepare a letter on behalf of council requesting that Char Technologies host a series of public awareness meetings to educate the community on their proposal and processes. That's
Okay.
it.
Councillor Longo, did you, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now that I again heard it for the second time and listened a little closer, so we see there's a process going ahead here where we're asking this proponent company to come forward and educate the residents of Thorold or Niagara. But what's the outcome here? If our residents aren't educated the way that they want to be educated, or they don't agree with the education being provided, do they have a way to have their concerns addressed? It's again, and I commend you, Councillor Sentence, for trying to do this, but I'm not sure what the end goal is here.
Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, to me, the end goal in talking to everybody is to get them information. Char's saying one thing. These people have been through the ringer on a couple of events, one in the last term of council, and they're saying there's some red flags. So my intention with this is for them to be able to listen to Char's presentation, again, bringing the region. I like that idea from Councillor Neal and everybody in, and then ask questions to the process and question the process, because they seem to see there's red flags. Liz, different people who were highly educated on this, and come in and pepper them with questions. And if they don't like what's going to happen, then I won't support this any further.
Thank you. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Councillor Sentence, for that answer. So, I appreciate it. Could I put a friendly amendment in there that we get expert opinion from the Niagara region like we originally asked for? And that expert opinion is part of the consultation process. So a third party can provide their expertise on what's being presented here.
Are you good with that, Councillor?
Yep.
He's good with that. Joanne, can you add that in, please?
And finally, I'll just add my last thing. The last comment you said, if you don't get the answers that you want to hear, you won't support this. But you have already supported this. So that's why I believe what Councillor Wilson said should happen, but I can't ask for it to happen. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. To the clerk to give us what that friendly amendment.
Sure, through the mayor to members of council, include another clause that states that council request the Niagara region to provide expert opinion with regards to the proposal.
Is that okay? Okay, any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Just my last point too, so Councillor Longo knows where I'm coming from. I'm admitting that I may have been overzealous in this from what I was told by Char, and for jobs in our city and for tax dollars to come in. So I'm just saying, myself included, I was too overzealous with it, and there were things that I should have looked at. So I'm ready to look at them now. Thank you.
And I can just say this, Councillor Sentence, we all could have asked for this to be in the original motion. So, you know, we can all say that. Anyway, okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. What? No, when we get to it. We're moving to delegations to report. Okay? Delegations to report is up next, and up first we have Carolyn Ryle, Director of Transportation Services, Regional in Niagara, on the Vision Zero initiative. Go ahead. Welcome, Carolyn, and your team, and go ahead, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor Ugolini, Town Council. I just want to confirm you can hear us okay, and then we're pulling the presentation up.
Yes, you can. We can, and I have to not warn you, but let you know you have 10 minutes a maximum for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to speak quickly because we have a lot of material here to cover, and we can take questions at the end, Mayor Ugolini and Council. So good evening. My name is Carolyn Ryle. I'm the Director of Transportation Services Division here at Niagara Region. I'm joined by Beth Friends, the Acting Associate Director, Financial Reporting and Analysis, and Judy McPherson, Transportation Services Coordinator. Next slide, please. As part of the agenda this evening, I'm going to provide an overview as to what's under the Vision Zero Road Safety Program. I'm going to provide an update around the court's intermunicipal agreement, the IMA, and the purpose for us seeking the approval here this evening regarding those changes. Beth will be providing a financial overview regarding the 2020 business case and the next steps for our launch. So first I'm going to start with community safety zones. So speeding is a primary crash factor and a leading road safety problem, often contributing to 1/3 of fatal crashes and serving as an aggravating factor in most crashes. Niagara Regional Council has the authority under the Municipal Act to pass bylaws and initiate measures to ensure the health and safety of residents. In establishing community safety zones, the region uses this as a tool to help make our communities safer. So to date, there are 13 community safety zones that have been implemented based on the approval here at Regional Council. The region first examined 38 schools on the regional road network, and again, we've approved the 13. In addition to schools moving forward, we'll be looking at parks, retirement homes, so areas where there's a lot of active transportation. Next slide, please. If we go to automated speed enforcement, and what does this mean in relation to community safety zones? So automated speed enforcement, referred to as ASE, was launched in December of 2019 by the province. Our business case that was approved by Regional Council spoke to 4 ASE units to be rotated among the 13 approved community safety zones. The benefits of the ASE program are to increase safety, reduce speeding, positive change in driver behavior, allocate police resources elsewhere throughout Niagara Region, increase driver awareness, in particular to the speeding that we're seeing on a large number of the regional road network. It's important to note that the revenue collected under any municipal ASE program per the legislation must be used to support local public safety and educational initiatives. The next slide talks to the number of municipalities in Ontario that have already launched ASE in their communities. The region was a stakeholder, was a member of the initial stakeholders working group that was established in 2017, as were those that are outlined here on this slide. You can see to date, 522,000 charges have been issued for speeding in community safety zones. And it's also fair to say that when you look at Peel through London, you can see they started out with smaller programs, 1 to 2 cameras. And if you look to Hamilton, for example, they're going to be increasing their program from 2 cameras to 8. Niagara Region, as part of our business case that was approved, is in line with Durham, starting with 4 cameras with the launch of our program. Next, I'd like to bring your attention to red light cameras. This is another form of automated speed enforcement that will be coming to Niagara Region, again, if approved. It was introduced in the province in 2000. Since then, the cameras are proven to reduce right angle collisions by 25%. Angle collisions and intersections can be quite serious in nature, resulting in fatalities. The cameras are proven to be an effective means to reduce the incidences of red light infractions, making our streets safer for all users. As the region works to complete its Complete Streets initiative in collaboration with each of the municipalities, we're trying to change the car-centric dynamic to one that includes for other modes of travel, pedestrian, cyclists, those who use transit. So this is an extremely important initiative with pedestrians and intersections and their safety. Our business case speaks to 10 red light cameras to be implemented across Niagara Region, again, once we launch, and there'll be a further business case report coming forward in 2022 to Regional Council, identifying those locations and the criteria used. When we speak to other Vision Zero initiatives, I have mentioned many of these as part of our last 1 to 5 year capital review before Council. You'll identify with the speed limit, our safety speed trailer, and pedestrian crossovers that we're showing here in the program. It's important to note that these are annual and capital programs that we will continue to put forward for approval as part of our budget process. They do fall under other Vision Zero initiatives, and we will continue to implement those in coordination with red light cameras and ASC technology. So proposed revisions to the Niagara Region Court's intermunicipal agreement, referred to as the IMA. So why are we here today? We're seeking unanimous support from all 12 local area municipal councils for the changes to the Niagara Region Court's intermunicipal agreement. It is important to note, if we do not receive approval across all 12 local area municipalities, the program will not and cannot launch. The IMA amendment recognized the Vision Zero Road Safety Initiative as it was not contemplated. It includes that the region will lead the implementation, operation, oversight, and ensure legislative compliance of the Vision Zero program as per the legislation. It allows for funds, net of court program costs, related to the operation implementation of Vision Zero to be reimbursed back to the region, which Beth will speak to as part of the business case discussion, and any revenue at such time above this will be split 50-50 among the region and the LAMs, very similar to what is already contemplated in the current IMA. It also talks to a 3-year term, and after year 2, the region will work again with its local area municipalities on the terms of the IMA and the expansion of the program. So again, why are we here today? The current agreement does not identify Vision Zero. The current agreement does not contemplate the province's guidelines for automated speed enforcement and the use of those dollars back into safety programs. The risk of implementation will be assumed by the region, and what I mean by that deals with the education, that deals with public scrutiny, the answering of questions. It also deals with the stakeholder engagement, so the rolling out of the program, ensuring all staff who drive municipal and or regional vehicles, for example, understand what it means to go through an ASC or a red light camera. It's dealing with emergency services and also select businesses such as funeral homes if they were to go through an intersection. It deals with significant upfront investment and obviously the uncertainty around the cost recovery, which again, we've made estimates around and will be discussed in a few minutes. When we talk about opportunities to be assumed by the region is the current member of the Automated Speed Enforcement Steering Committee and has been at that table since day one. We are able to provide a consistent delivery of the program. We're able to manage resources among regional staff with consultants and contractors, as well as with the courts. And then we're able to collaborate and bring together ourselves with the local area municipalities on the vision of moving this program forward. I'll now pass this over to Beth to provide a financial overview as it relates to the 2020 business case.
Thanks, Carolyn. The next few slides that I will be presenting are intended to provide a high-level overview of the financials, largely based on what Regional Council approved as part of the 2020 budget, as well as the changes that are being proposed to the IMA. This slide provides a high-level overview of estimated operating budget. Again, as outlined in the business case, the numbers on this slide relate to our first full year of operation, which we're estimating to be 2023. The total operating costs for both courts and region in both our transportation and business licensing division are estimated at approximately $4 million. Total operating costs of $4 million will be fully funded if we achieve our target of 32,500 tickets, 5,000 tickets associated with the 10 red light cameras, and approximately 27,500 for the 4 ASC cameras. It is anticipated that the ticket revenue generated from the program will allow for enough funds to cover program operating and implementation costs through the first 3 years. This is another visual of the anticipated Vision Zero revenue, expenditures, and planned bottom line for the first full year of operation. It's important to note that courts does recognize ticket revenue on the cash basis, meaning revenue is based on ticket revenue received in year, not based on tickets issued. 32,500 tickets could result in gross income of $5.4 million when considering actual cash received. We are estimating approximately 300,000 of the 5.4 will not be received in the first year, resulting in the 5.1 million number you're seeing in the second box. Coming down, the 5.1 is reduced to 4 million in revenue after victim fine surcharges are paid to the province. 4 million is then further reduced to the 2.3 million that you're seeing in remaining revenues after court program cost of 1.7. And then after our regional cost estimated at 2.3, the program does come down to a net zero position, meaning no net revenue distribution to the lands or the region. I've also flagged on the slide that the region has anticipated $750,000 in implementation costs to get the sites ready. It is anticipated that the region will be paid back these expenditures from future years' Vision Zero revenue prior to any net revenue distribution. Some of the risks that I want to flag, there are significant unknowns around the number of tickets that would be issued, challenged, and or not paid. Because we are not sure how many tickets will be challenged, we are flagging that there could be pressures in our court trial time capacity as a result of those challenged tickets. Less ticket revenue collected on expenditures incurred. Draw your attention to Section 7 of the amendment to the IMA, where we are stating that regional funding will be used to offset in-year deficits to ensure no negative impact to the non-Vision Zero revenue distribution. The regional funding again will be is anticipated to be repaid from future year Vision Zero revenue prior to any distribution. And to reiterate, the lands will not be expected to use any of their non-Vision Zero revenue distributions to offset any possible Vision Zero deficit. Opportunities. There is an opportunity to align our staffing levels and court services to ticket volume experience, which will allow us to ensure we are managing expenditures effectively and ultimately maximizing any net Vision Zero revenue for distribution to the region and to the lands. If we are in a position where we have more ticket revenue collected than our expenditures incurred, as Carolyn noted earlier, the revenue would be distributed based on our current agreement, which is 50% to the region and 50% to the lands based on assessment values. Note that future year Vision Zero revenue will be used to pay back any deficits and implementation costs incurred by the region. And again, as Carolyn had noted, any revenue must be reinvested into the program and reported to the region for our report to the ministry.
Thank you, Beth. So lastly, next step. So we're before council this evening, looking for support for the revisions to the amending IMA. We've been meeting with a number of municipalities in December, and we'll finish those off in January of 2022. We will be reporting back to regional council targeting February 2022 regarding the finalizing the amending IMA, and then also seeking approval for the execution of vendor agreements, again, pending approvals in place with all 12 of the local area municipalities. And we're targeting February, March 2020. We'll keep many of the councils informed. We're anticipating and hoping to go live in 2022 of Q2. So we want to thank you for your time this evening. This is an extremely exciting program that the region is wanting to roll out, and we appreciate the support of all the staff that we've been working with at each of the municipalities. So we'll now take questions.
Thank you, Carolyn, and your staff. I'll open the floor for questions, and I got Councillor DeRose up first. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Thank you, Carolyn. I'm so happy to see this being on the Road Safety Committee. This is something I dreamed of. This is awesome. I just have a couple of questions, like always. It says the 4 automated speed enforcement units will be rotated among the 13 community safety zones. And I know our mayor is working diligently to get a designated safety zone in Thorold where there'll be 3 schools next fall. And I'm just wondering, is there no way to get them unless you have a designated community safety zone?
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Is that the only way to have the...
Thank you, Councillor, for the question through the mayor. So yes, the automated speed enforcement can only be put into community safety zones that have been designated and approved through bylaw. I am aware of the location, and I've spoken with the mayor a number of times on the location that he's brought to our attention. It's in review, and there'll be more to come with regards to that in Q1 of 2022. So yes, it needs to be a designated community safety zone for an ASC unit to be placed there.
Okay, thank you. And also, when you go to page 30, it's 4 of 5, but it's also page 30 at the bottom, the operating budget business case. Everything seems to be offset so that it's neutral, revenue or net neutral. Am I reading that right, or is that just numbers you guys put in? So I'm on Vision Zero Safety Program 2020 operating budget, page 4 of 5 on the second presentation, and it's at page 30 at the bottom. I'm just wondering, you know, it has the years 2020, 21, 22, and it just has gross expenditures, gross revenues, and net impact to levy. Are those numbers still not deciphered yet or calculated yet?
Through the mayor, the reason why you're seeing a net zero bottom line is we're assuming that we will have enough revenue to cover our expenditures. So we're not showing a deficit or a gain. We're just saying really the intention of the program is to break even and introduce the speed enforcement to support road safety. It's not really about the amount of money that the program is generating. So we're going to try and watch the revenue, the amount of tickets that are coming through and the actual revenue that we're receiving and trying to balance our costs out to align with that.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Also, one last question. I noticed when you're talking about staffing impact, and I know the 12 are necessary, but then it says 2 permanent managers, non-union. Is it imperative to have 2 managers for this endeavor?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. So through the mayor. So the 2 headcount you're referring to are managers that will be assigned to the transportation division to oversee the Vision Zero program. So the region has not hired staff to run the program until we receive the approvals through this process with regards to the IMA. Once those approvals are in place, staff will put those postings out, will hire those 2 managers to support and oversee the program from the region side.
Okay, so it's obviously necessary for 2 managers.
Correct.
In your professional.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward. I look forward to this getting implemented across the region. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor DeRose. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Great presentation, great initiative for safety in our school zones. I just have one question for you. The ticket number, the 32,500, is that a safe estimate, or where do you come up with that, or how do you feel you can attain that?
Through the mayor, thank you for the question. Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of unknowns. We did look at some of the experiences in the city of Hamilton. And we did look at to see what we think that our courts can handle, just based on that volume. It could be that a lot of the tickets that are issued are prepaid, meaning that there's no real heavy lift within the court system. Then we could look to issue more tickets. Really, that 32,500 was our best estimate, and then we costed out what the cost would be to support those tickets and what the revenue would be. Based on that ticket number.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenters. Just a quick question. You explained how the speed devices work, being only in community safety zones. Where would the red light cameras go? Are they only at regional intersections, or how does that work?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Through the mayor. So the region has already started assessing all infrastructure related to signals throughout all the regions. So we looked at regional municipal, regional Niagara Parks, and also regional MTO. So what we've done is we have prioritized all of those intersections based on a set criteria with regards to how we're going to be prioritizing them. It's fair to say that the first 10, and again, there'll be a report coming back to council. Likely we'll be dealing with intersections related on the regional road infrastructure, just due to the wider platforms and the higher speeds with regards to just the number of collisions that we've been seeing in the regional road in the intersections. But the intent will be to roll and expand the program to include just not regional, but also regional and municipal, and carry it through.
Great, thank you for that answer. And one further question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
So I guess residents would be kind of warned that community safety zones, they should be cautious. They should be cautious all the time. But how would they be warned in any way about red light cameras and what zones they would be in?
Through the mayor, so the region is required to indicate the locations as well as provide an awareness period. So for example, when an automated speed enforcement piece of technology is put out in a certain area in one of those community safety zones, we need to give a 90-day awareness period. So anybody going through that area will receive something in the mail, they will not be issued a ticket in the first 90 days, but given obviously a warning. And then after the 90-day period, when the system goes live, that's when those tickets will be issued to those obviously driving through the community safety zone at speeds higher than anticipated. With regards to red light cameras, there also will be signs out in the network indicating that this intersection is being monitored through a red light camera. And again, if you blow through a red light, you'll receive a ticket through the mail.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? The only thing I can, go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
I don't know if I missed it in the presentation, but the red light cameras, will they be rotated around also?
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Or the same ones all the time?
Yeah, through the mayor. So the intent for the first 10 is to keep them in place and to monitor them, and we likely will not be rotating those. The 4 automated speed enforcement will be rotated throughout the calendar year to hit all 13 community safety zones and for any additional ones that come online through approval. So the ASC will be rotated to all of the community safety zones, and red light cameras will stay in place for the first year for assessment, and then the anticipation will be to consider whether we should move them, keep them, and how we'd like to expand the program.
Okay, I know it's been decided that you're going to keep them there, but it just happens after 6 months, people know they're there and they're good. And then I think we'd be better off if we moved them, but that's for you to decide. But I'm just thinking that, like I say, if they were rotated after 6 months, we might get more value out of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Seeing none, oh, thank you, Carolyn, for your group for the presentation, and I thank you that you're doing a review on Collier Road. You know it's important to our community, and we really appreciate the work you're doing. So thank you. So now we have 14A1 PWCS 2021-108 Niagara Region Vision Zero Initiative Amendment to the Niagara Regional Courts Intermunicipal Agreement. I have a mover, Councillor Wilson, and a seconded by Councillor Decker, that the amending agreement to the Niagara Region Courts Intermunicipal Agreement be approved for purposes of advancing the Vision Zero program, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the amending agreement to the Niagara Region Courts Intermunicipal Agreement. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you so much. Up next, we have 14B, Matt Robinson, Director of GO Transit Implementation Office, Region of Niagara, regarding regional transit. And I'm going to turn this over to Matt. And Matt, I'm looking forward to your presentation in this discussion, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will share my screen here with council. There we go. I can see Councillor Kenny. Can you see my screen all right? Perfect. Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's a pleasure to be back here with you this evening. The purpose of tonight's presentation and the associated report is to seek council's endorsement of the final transit governance proposal to create a single consolidated system for Niagara. Tonight represents the culmination of years of work by many who came before us, and this is a significant decision for this council and all of Niagara. I also wanted to recognize Mayor Ugolini and Regional Councillor Whalen tonight for their ongoing support of transit at the region. With Regional Council having passed the proposal 24-1, it is now up to Niagara's municipalities to determine if Niagara takes this next step in moving transit forward. To guide tonight's discussion, we'll remind Council what we're trying to achieve, then we'll move to why and examine the benefits of a consolidated system. We'll then look at how and the plan to do it. From there, we'll examine the who, both in terms of who will shape future decisions and govern, and who shaped the proposal and how it evolved considerably over time and through significant municipal and community consultation. There's a tremendous amount of municipal staff, political champions, and passionate community advocates who've done all of the heavy lifting to get us to this decision tonight. And we'll finish up with the when, the timelines, and what the road ahead looks like for the rest of the triple majority process itself. So the vision for a single consolidated transit system in Niagara has been years, arguably decades in the making. The proposal before you seeks to create a single consolidated transit system governed by a commission that would deliver transit with a region-wide lens for all of Niagara. One that would seamlessly connect to the GO network, both bus and rail, at Niagara's GO stations. One that would ensure sustainable connectivity to all corners of Niagara and beyond, new communities and new developments in Thorold being connected in ways that meet their needs and bring your city closer together. And lastly, the vision is for a reliable, consistent, and integrated system that will transform mobility, independence, and growth in Niagara for generations to come. The benefits of a single consolidated transit system are numerous. We've heard from your community and others over the last 24 months, as well as through countless letters of support and delegations. A common theme we've heard throughout is that the benefits are very public-facing and tangible. A single unified system for all 12 municipalities will pool our resources and optimize them to maximize service for our residents. It will create equity for all communities and enable access by residents where mobility may be limited or unavailable due to municipal or jurisdictional boundaries. Enhanced and expanded service creates what riders want from transit: reliability, consistency, and frequency. This expansion and enhanced access drives economic development and job retention and attraction. We've heard testimonials from numerous employers, business advocates like Niagara's Chambers of Commerce, and employee and social advocates like the Employment Help Center, Niagara Region, the Niagara Poverty Reduction Network, and the Niagara Native Friendship Center. Only under one system can we have a single $3 fare. That means $3 wherever you go, wherever you live in Niagara. That means the cost of taking intermunicipal trips, which are currently $6, reduces down to $3. The environmental benefits to transit are certainly well documented, but the move to innovative, entirely greener transit is only achieved as a single transit agency. As Thorold well knows, Niagara has an enormous and active student population who are significant and valued users of transit. A single system benefits not only those post-secondary students, but also our younger students who will gain more freedom and independence. Getting our next generation comfortable and reliant on reliable transit as their primary mode of transportation is a key driver in youth retention and system growth. And lastly, an integrated single transit system will be fairly funded, create significant social and economic value, and be governed by Niagara's community leaders to ensure the future of Niagara's transit growth is sustainable, reliable, and positioned for success. It's only through the creation of a single transit agency for all of Niagara that these outcomes can be fully and successfully achieved. So how do we get there? The Niagara Transit Governance Study recommended the full commission model as the optimal governance structure for Niagara and was endorsed by the municipalities as part of the Round 1 Roadshow. This model will bring the right amount of autonomy and flexibility to allow transit in Niagara to reach its full potential. Based on extensive consultation and listening to significant input from our municipal partners, the commission would be established with a transitional board of 15 elected officials from the municipal and regional councils. Supporting the commission, an advisory committee of 20 public representatives would also be established from diverse sectors. So Thorold Council would appoint either a regional or local councillor as your representative to the commission, as well as a citizen appointee to represent you on the advisory committee. As a first priority, the commission would need to standardize operating hours. This was seen as a key driver to transit growth and increased ridership through consistency and reliability were significant, over the first 2 years, From there, focus would pivot to combining specialized and on-demand services. This is where significant efficiencies can be found, where currently jurisdictional boundaries prohibit efficient ride sharing, customer pickups, and optimal routing from occurring. Combining these two services enables a significant amount of capacity to be added to the system if it operates as a single integrated agency. This is where new connections to new developments in Thorold using the on-demand model will be realized, until there's a shift to conventional transit. Allenburg, Port Robinson East, and Rolling Meadows have all been included in that expansion. Funding all of this is a user pays principle based on transit service hours in each community. Services realized, both current and future, will be directly allocated for those costs incurred in each community. Using 12 special levies, one for each municipality, services delivered within a community will be allocated to that municipality's regional levy. Simply put, there will be no more municipal charges for transit as of January 1st, 2023. Your regional taxes pay for the service in your municipality. The existing intermunicipal levy will remain on region-wide assessment, but all of the net new services inherited from the municipalities will be the new portions allocated based on service hours. The plan also introduces a capital reserve strategy to ensure that the growth laid out in the service plan can be realized, and eliminates the use of provincial gas tax to subsidize operating rates, so those funds can be used to fund future capital expansion in your community. Significant consultation has occurred over the last 2 years to get us to where we are today. Our municipal communications teams jointly developed the website movingtransitforward.ca, where over 2,200 resident responses from all 12 municipalities were received, with an overwhelming majority in favor of the proposed path forward. The project team also facilitated over a dozen diverse interested party focus group sessions. One of the key aspects of the consultation was 2 rounds of municipal council consultation. That's over 24 meetings for the project team so far in 2021 alone. The municipal councils were key to this entire proposal. From the outset, way back at the early stages of the study, to the development of the financial strategy, the governance model, and the service plan, our municipal councils have directly shaped the evolution of the proposal. The CAO Governance Steering Committee, during 10 half-day workshops over the course of 2021, weighed numerous options and angles at every piece of feedback and arrived at what they believed to be the best proposal for Niagara. The Linking Niagara Transit Committee was unanimous in its recommendation to Regional Council of these recommendations and to proceed with this consideration vote this evening. So what comes next? Tonight's report seeks Council's approval as part of the triple majority process. Triple majority is achieved by a majority of Regional Council, a majority of Municipal councils, whose combined population represents a majority of Niagara's electors. With Regional Council having passed the bylaw, the first criteria has been achieved. Now all 12 municipal councils must consider the bylaw. You can see the schedule of meetings on the slide, which have occurred, which still need to occur. Regional Council has requested those consideration votes occur by January 31st, 2022. Should triple majority be achieved, the Commission's assumption of full operational control of the service will occur on January 1st, 2023, bringing with it well-documented transformative benefits. So on behalf of the CAO Governance Steering Committee, the project team, and the Linking Niagara Transit Committee, we strongly believe that the time for this transformative step forward is now. The benefits are compelling. The comprehensive service and financial plans are in place. The extensive collaboration has allowed for an inclusive and representative proposal. And with those pieces all successfully and sequentially in place, the decision is now before Council and our municipalities to decide if this represents a successful path for moving transit forward in Niagara. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I will send it back to you and stop sharing my screen and take any questions that councillors may have.
Thank you so much, Matt. Now I'm going to open the floor for questions from council. And do we have questions for Matt? Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple questions. Will it impact any jobs? Or are we looking at hiring more drivers? Like, I don't want to see people losing their jobs with this amalgamation. And what type of hours are we looking at? Like longer hours, or can you answer that for me, please, Matt?
Go ahead,
so
Matt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, if I refer to the region's PW 55 report, which I understand has been included, one of the pieces in there, and I'll answer, Councillor Decker, your question about jobs first. Under that is appendix number 4, and it lays out a labor relations strategy that really looks at both the current employees and future employees. So what I can say is that with the current complement of unionized employees, all of our bus drivers, our frontline operators, our mechanics, all unionized staff, they would move over to the new commission. Because in essence, what's happening is the current model is just being consolidated. Going forward, that's where we see future expansion. So in a model where the current state remains and improves, it's fair to say that the labor relations strategy is to move people over into the new commission as they are now, and then look to enhance that service as we go forward, and presumably under that scenario, add more jobs, more drivers as we add more service laid out in the service plan. So that's the first piece of that. Additionally, when it comes to Thorold, that's where we look at moving forward the addition of on-demand servicing a number of other areas in your municipality. And that's where we see over the course of 2023 and 2024, where we add additional connections looking at Allenburg, Port Robinson East, Rolling Meadows. That's where Thorold is going to see the addition of more hours, tangible, more hours using that on-demand model, connecting into the existing fixed route service that currently services the city of Thorold.
Does that answer your questions, Councillor Decker?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, Councillor DeRose. Councillor DeRose, go ahead. You're muted. Councillor DeRose, you're still muted.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm having trouble with my mouse. Got a new computer. Thank you, Matt, for your presentation. Just my concern is kind of the opposite of Councillor Decker's. Yeah, I don't want anybody to lose jobs, but I'm just worried about the increase in bureaucracy that this is going to add to our already. I think I spoke to Councillor Whalen about it earlier, about the overabundance of employees now at the region. So I'm just worried. Can you quantify what bureaucracy is going to be needed to implement this new program?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor DeRose, at this point, we look to use, we know the existing number. In Appendix 4 of PW 55, it lays out the number of unionized and non-unionized employees. On the, we'll call it bureaucracy, to use your word, I would assume that's the sort of oversight, the transit staff that would manage things. Right now, across Niagara, there are 42 FTEs managing the existing disparate 5 systems that come together. That would be our starting point in terms of bringing people in and looking at whether or not that is the right complement. At the current time, there is not a prescribed increase in the structure of the new commission. But what I will say is that those FTEs which exist within the current municipalities, those wouldn't exist anymore. So I want to be clear that it's not a duplication of any oversight that exists now. It would come together into a single transit commission.
Okay, and Matt, just something maybe you can clarify, because if this just becomes more of what I see, for example, in Thorold, I swear, when I observe the large buses, and sometimes, what are the double ones called? Is there a name for the double, they're not double deckers, you know, the extended cabs?
Articulated buses.
Yeah. Okay, so I see a lot of them. I'd say in a week, 7 out of 10 of them that I see going through Thorold, they're either empty or have 3, 4, 5 passengers. Is there any way to start, are there any plans to download, because you're talking about environmentally friendly and being more efficient in transporting. And I'm a big fan of the on-demand service, which I see that you're implementing more and more of, which places like Innisfil have gotten rid of all their transit buses and gone to on-demand services. So I'm just wondering, are there any plans? Because I could see, say, a bus going from Thorold to Wainfleet. I wouldn't be using a large bus that's going to be empty. Are there any plans for smaller, even van-like sizes on the horizon? That's my biggest concern. Is when you're talking about the environment and efficiency and cost to taxpayers. My biggest concern is seeing empty buses run across the whole region now. If you can comment on that, thank you.
Absolutely, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor DeRose, I'd be happy, maybe aside from here, to walk you through the NRT on-demand system. It uses exclusively 7 passenger vans, and it services the rural municipalities. There is no large bus servicing any of West Niagara, Port Colborne, Fort Erie, or Niagara-on-the-Lake. They all use smaller vehicles in predominantly 7 passenger vans for the very reason you just said. There is wide geography, there's lower ridership, and we can make best use of our resources by deploying that smaller van in a ride share scenario out to pick up 2 people from Wainfleet together and bring them where they need to go. There are no large buses servicing those communities, and that's the type of model we would look to combine with our core system, where, as you well know, in and around Brock, it makes more sense for those large buses. But out in the peripheral areas, Allenburg, Port Robinson, smaller vehicles servicing better, more effectively, more efficiently with the resources, that's the sweet spot for us in terms of making those connections and feeding the fixed route system.
Thanks, Matt. That's the $1 million question I was looking for. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Matt, for the presentation. Very well done. They touched on the rural areas. I like your answers on those, that they can get where they need to get to, wherever you are, whether it's on demand or a bus. I guess the question to you would be, right now there's a small van that goes through Thorold South. Would that continue? Like, this isn't a discontinuation of anything, is it?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Sentence, no, it is not looking to discontinue or alter anything. In that first year or 2 of service, that continuity and baseline will remain. It's beyond that as we look to enhance service, where you start to see those new connections and new modes of delivering the service.
Great, thank you. I think this is good for Thorold. Thanks, Matt.
Sorry, Councillor Neal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mike. On the on-demand service, because I've utilized over the years services in other countries and in other parts of Canada regarding bus service. And a question to you is, when do you change on-demand to being an established bus service, for instance, in Rolling Meadows? I mean, I'm sure that if you start off with a bus service to the Rolling Meadows, then there will be more use happen with that service than doing on demand, or is that not usually the case?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Neal, I won't get into the belabored point, but what I can say is that the service plan that's laid out in LNTC C3 2021 in Appendix 5, so it's the service plan that is mapped out for the transit consolidation proposal, actually has numbers that trigger that move from when on-demand becomes too much for the fleet and too much for the demand, and you start to see spikes in the wait times because vans are full. That's where we trigger and pivot over to the per hour boardings, and we look to then implement fixed route service. So there is definitely a case to be made where you see a movement from on-demand to community bus, which is basically specific routes, and then you move to the fully fixed route scenario. So the service plan lays out a clear delineation to see and accommodate as growth builds and you have too much frequency for an on-demand model and it starts to suffer. That's where you implement a community bus and start to create those targeted corridors. If that becomes too much, That's when you move to the larger 40 and 60 foot buses. And now you have an established intensification of ridership, and you have demand for putting a full scale bus on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, thanks for the presentation. I actually watched you 3 hours at the region and 2.5 hours at the city of St. Catharines, and then my wife told me to get a life. So anyways, a few questions as it relates only to Thorold. And I asked this question to you last time you came to our council chambers, and you didn't really have an answer for me, so I'm hoping you have one today. As you know, we subcontract our transit services with St. Catharines Transit. Brock University subcontracts, and I believe they pay around $4 million a year. How does Brock University fit into this? In no way are we going to subsidize Brock University because their buses run through our neighborhoods?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Longo, since the last time I was here, we do have more clarity on that question regarding Brock. Both Brock University and Niagara College students, for student dedicated routes, they pay 100% full cost recovery. So that the taxpayers of Niagara, the taxpayers of Thorold in particular, for student dedicated routes, the taxpayers do not pay anything to subsidize those services. Those are paid wholly and solely by the student unions in their contributions. However, as part of the broader access to the system, our broader system is then subsidized, if you will, or contributed to by students to access routes that are beyond just the student routes that they pay for. So going forward, anything that is requested, as it currently is now, anything requested and fully required for student accommodation is paid for 100% by the students going forward in perpetuity.
Okay, so in effect, they are somewhat of a partner in intermunicipal transit.
Absolutely.
Okay. My next question is, and I'm not sure if you realize, but we do subsidize Brock ridership on our buses. So has that been taken into consideration? And by that, I mean, to explain to you, is when they ride our buses, they pay a lower charge than our normal residents do. And it's been a contentious issue.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Longo, one of the things that the new commission is going to have to do is renegotiate the UPass. And the UPass is basically 25,000 students have agreed to pay X amount for access to the system. And as a result of that, they get to ride at a reduced rate as a result of the large volume of rides that they take. Going forward, that current proposal and whatever those rates may be at the current time, they may or may not prevail going forward. But what's fair to say is that that full cost recovery for student routes will prevail, and a renegotiation for the UPass under a single commission will absolutely be necessary between Brock and Niagara College.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one other issue, and I'm not picking on Brock, but being in the situation we are in, it's very unique in Thorold. We've had issues in the past where routes showed up on streets that we had no idea was going to happen. Does Thorold regain control over where the routes will be in our community?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the question, I think going forward, what we're going to find is that the commission is going to map out a service strategy and a service plan. I think what's important and what we've heard is that an enhanced level of communication between the commission and the respective councils on any changes to the service plan is going to be paramount. There's going to need to be not only communication between the municipality's board member and the city council, but also between the commission itself and the city council. And that communication is going to be, as I said, a critical piece to ensuring that if service warrants adding particular stops or adding particular routes, then that needs to be communicated out to the various neighborhoods and to city councils in advance of implementation of those changes.
Okay, so I hope you're saying we would still have control over those routes because it was very contentious in our neighborhoods. My couple more questions here, and I'm not sure if I should be directing these to you or our staff members, but you mentioned provincial and federal gas tax money. Do you know if Thorold will be affected in a negative way regarding what we currently get and what we would get under the new system?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll take a first run at this, and then maybe I can defer to staff. Under the consolidated transit model, provincial gas tax, which is used exclusively for transit purposes and no other purpose, those current allocations across all municipalities would all go up to the new commission. So Thorold would no longer receive provincial gas tax because they would no longer be delivering transit. As I said, those two things are intrinsically linked. Provincial gas tax and delivery of transit, that is, without delivering transit, you don't get provincial gas tax. So if you're no longer delivering transit, you no longer collect gas tax. However, the federal gas tax, which is used for bridges, roads, and the like through the transportation network, that still remains. That is not part of the conversation. That still remains in whatever allocation currently is received by the city of Thorold. Will continue to do so going forward.
Great, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. I just want to touch on this because, like I said, I've been following it. In our correspondence to council later in our meeting, there's a letter there from the city of Welland. And I know they have some issues regarding this, so they're our neighbor. So do you feel that their concerns will be satisfied?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Longo, I can draw your attention to regional report. In the regional package on November the 25th, there was correspondence CLC 86 2021, which outlined in very specific detail each and every answer to the questions that the city of Welland has raised. At this point, that remains the answers and response to the city of Welland. And that correspondence was submitted, as I said, November the 25th. And we have had a multitude of previous conversations and correspondence related to those concerns with the city of Welland.
Okay, so has there been any progress in your opinion?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Longo, CLC C 86 2021 represents both the region's position on Welland's concerns as well as the consensus position of the remaining 12 CAOs who comprised of the governance steering committee.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just end by saying I believe you've done a great job, and the social, economic, and environmental benefits to this are what we need. So I commend you for a job well done.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Are there any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
I'd just like to say a great presentation, Matt. I'm going to fully support it. I did have some concerns with Councillor Decker mentioned early on. We were continuously talking about manpower. I think off topic, St. Catharines has 12 councillors for 120,000 people, and we've got 8 councillors for 20,000 people. So if some of us start talking about manpower in different positions, maybe we should look in the mirror. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Matt, I can't thank you enough, you and your group, the work you've done, and the collaboration. You know, this has just been a major initiative, and your whole group has done a marvelous job. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we have report on the floor coming now, which is PWCS 2021-107, Niagara Transit Governance Recommendations. I need a mover and a seconder. I got a mover, Councillor Wilson, and a seconder, Councillor Longo. And it says that the information presented by Niagara Region staff be received and that the Council of the City of Thorold consents to the passage of bylaw number 96-2021 of the Regional Municipality of Niagara, being a bylaw to provide Niagara Region with the exclusive authority to establish, operate, and maintain a consolidated passenger transportation system for the Niagara Region. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have some questions for staff.
Yes.
I don't want to quell your enthusiasm, but I just have some questions, and I'm not sure if I would direct these. I'll direct them to the appropriate staff member. Can I get an explanation on the provincial gas tax if staff's opinion is we won't be negatively affected here?
Manoj, I'll start off with you, and is Maria on? Maria, do you want to take that, or Manoj, are you taking it? Our Director of Finance.
I can take it.
Go ahead.
As was indicated by Matt, through you, Mr. Mayor, you're only eligible for provincial gas tax if you run a transit system. So since we will no longer be, while we subcontract, we are deemed to be running a transit system. Since we are no longer running that transit system, we would not be eligible for any provincial gas tax funds. On the flip side, what would happen is the region would absorb any of the local area municipal levies relating to transit along with the provincial gas tax. So we will not be negatively affected by the loss of that provincial gas tax. Also, as Matt indicated, this in no way impacts the federal gas tax, which is the infrastructure funding.
Great, thank you for that. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Finance, will this be like net neutral for the next 2 years? Like, is this going to cost us any more? And will, assuming our services stay exactly the same?
Well, I believe if you look at the schedule that's included in the report, the base number is a 2020 cost, and what they've done is they've looked at the regional as well as the local area municipal cost. You know, when you factor in inflation, when you factor in some of the capital requirements that they spoke of earlier, there is a net impact to the overall level. But what will happen is similar to when there have been transfer of roads and waste management, our costs will go down for our budget and the regional costs will go up. So your base level, there should be no impact to the taxpayer. Where you're going to see an impact is any of the incremental differences.
And excuse me, what do you mean by incremental differences? I guess what I'm trying to understand is if we go to this new system and we have no change in service, the level of service, is the cost the same to the City of Thorold, or is there an increase or a decrease?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a chart that's included as Appendix 4. And what it outlines right now, again, it's baseline 2020 net transit budget. They're showing $600,000, which is the Thorold net levy for transit, along with $700,000, which is the regional portion, the Thorold share of the regional portions. So you're looking at a $1.3 million cost in 2020 dollars. What they project for 2023 for Thorold is 1.7 million. So again, if you factor in inflation, if you factor in our usage, our allocation of some of the costs based on our usage, and you factor in some of the capital requirements and the transition costs, there is an increase from what we're paying now.
Okay, so just to clarify, it sounds like we'll have roughly a $400,000 increase to go to a regional transit service, and we will have to budget for that in our upcoming budgets?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, we will not have to budget for that because all of the transit costs come out of our budget. So we transfer our base budget along with our base gas tax money, federal, provincial gas tax money gets transferred to the regional levy. So it's the region that will have to increase their budget accordingly, not the city of Thorold. Same taxpayer at the end, but in terms of your comments, do we need to provide in our budget? No, we do not.
Okay, so we'll be provided a levy from, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll be provided a levy increase through the region to make up for the difference.
We will be provided with an area charge, an area levy charge from the region that will show up on our regional tax, on the city's tax bill that we issue as a regional charge.
Okay, I think I understand. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
I just wanted to make a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
I think this is an amazing opportunity for our city. I see this nothing as a positive of increasing services to our residents, better services, better commuting between the various cities. We have lots of employment land. We're looking for employers to come to our area. And what a better way to do that than by making them able to be able to recruit and train employees throughout the region that are going to be able to get to their facility. So I think this is a great thing, even if it does cost us a little bit more, or from the regional levy, obviously not from our levy, but I see this as a positive step towards the future. And I did love some of the stuff that Matt said about retaining our youth. I mean, this is a huge thing, right? They don't always, with the costs increasing, young people can't afford to get a car, put insurance on a car, let alone rent an apartment or buy a house. So having proper transit in our region really is forward thinking when it comes to retaining our youth and the talent in our area. And so I think this is a great step forward, and it has my full support.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Is there anyone else? Councillor Sentence, did you have your hand up or no? No? Okay. Does someone want to ask for a recorded vote? Councillor Wilson? Okay, so we're gonna do a recorded vote, and I'll ask the clerk to conduct the recorded vote.
Sure. A recorded vote was requested by Councillor Wilson with regards to the resolution WCS 2021-107. Councillor Wilson?
In favor.
Councillor Decker?
Yes, in favor.
Councillor Longo?
In favor.
Councillor Kenny?
In favor.
Councillor DeRose?
In favor.
Councillor Neal?
In favor?
Sorry, who are we missing here?
Councillor Sentence.
Councillor Sentence, sorry.
In favor, that's okay.
And Mayor Ugolini.
In favor.
Okay, it passes.
That carries unanimously. And we're municipality number 7. So, am I correct?
Yeah, by us approving it, it's triple majority was achieved. Thanks.
Great news. Okay, I want to again thank you, Matt, and your group for all the work, and I want to thank council for your supporting this important initiative and doing it with a unanimous vote. Okay, we're going to move on to consent reports. Moved by Councillor Kenny and seconded by Councillor Sentence that council approve items 15A through 15F as presented. Is there anyone that wants to pull any of these reports? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to pull F, council correspondence.
Yep, number F. Anything else? So I see nothing else, so we're going to move Councillor Kenny, seconder Councillor Sentence, that council approve items 15A through 15E. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now we got 15F, and I have a mover again, Councillor Kenny, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence, and Councillor Longo, CC 2021-80, council correspondence. And I will ask you to speak on that because you asked to pull that report. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just give me 1 second so I can pull it up. Council correspondence, Mr. Mayor. My question is actually on nothing that's on council correspondence. My question is for a resident on what's lacking on council correspondence. And I'm just wondering if staff can explain why. It was a letter presented to staff, city clerk on Wednesday asking that it be attached as council correspondence, and they noticed it wasn't here. So they asked me to ask why it's not on our agenda.
Okay, and I'll ask the clerk to answer that for me.
Yes, of course, through the mayor to members of council, there is a deadline for these reports to be in. So any correspondence that came in from the public came in after that deadline on Tuesday afternoon.
So do we have an actual deadline of Tuesday for correspondence, even though our agendas don't get published till Thursday? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I have a mover, Councillor Kenny, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence, that council receive and file the items listed in the city clerk's report, CC 2021-80. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we're on to discussion reports. Up first, PDS 2021-51 recommendation reports, Rolling Meadow Phase 14 and 16 official plan amendment. Item number 6, report number PDS 2021-28. I have a mover, Councillor Longo, and a seconder, Councillor Wilson.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, I'd like to, if I can at this time, I'd like to ask for a deferral on this report until the first or second quarter of next year to allow for further discussion by the residents, the developer, and staff.
Is that, can you give a timeline? You say first or second quarter. I'll ask our manager of planning, Denise, do you need a more definitive timeline, or does that work for you?
Through the mayor to the councillor, if you could pick a quarter, that would be appreciated and helpful, so we've got direction for when to come back.
Okay, I'll say first quarter.
First quarter, okay. So you're asking to defer that item and come back sometime in the first quarter. Am I correct? There's no debate on that. So I'll move that a deferral. Do we need a seconder on the deferral? Where's?
Yes.
Yes, I got Councillor Wilson as a seconder on that. Is that correct?
Yes, but Mr. Mayor, could I ask for a friendly amendment to the second quarter or the end of the first quarter? Because
no,
that means staff could come back in January.
You want to say end of the first quarter?
End of the first quarter.
End of the first quarter. Is that good, Denise? Okay. Is that good,
Yes,
Councillor?
and I will second that.
Okay. End of the first quarter. It's deferred. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. And that was to the clerk. You got that? You got that vote? Okay. Now we got PDS 2021-55 bylaw enforcement service delivery. I have a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor DeRose. And I have our Chief Building Official, Jason Simpson, here, and I'll let him take the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the recommendations from this report are that the Planning and Development Services Report, PDS 2021-55, be received, that staff be directed to develop service delivery standards for council's future consideration as they relate to bylaw enforcement, and that staff be directed to assess opportunities for a stepped administrative penalty system associated with applicable municipal bylaws for council's future consideration. And that concludes the report recommendations.
Thank you. And I'll open the floor for any questions. And Councillor DeRose, go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Durrell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Jason. Jason, before I am going to ask for a motion coming up, but is there any way to have more evening and Saturday shifts going forward? Maybe in the next contract or in the future? Is it a possibility?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, we are bound by the current collective agreement that does come up for negotiations in the near future. That, I suppose, could be an item for discussion, but that I'm not a part of those discussions. But as far as additional evening and weekend shifts, not only the collective agreement would have to be taken into consideration, but our staffing complement would also as well, because currently, just to provide the one officer on Saturdays, we're pulling from the weekday coverage. And so we're just kind of shifting the problem around as opposed to being able to really address the needs of the community.
And some of those items, would that report be coming to council if it's budget related, correct? Am I correct? To Jason?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, any kind of recommended staffing needs will come forward at budget deliberations.
Thank you. Councillor DeRose, continue, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Jason, I noticed in your report we have 1,800 bylaw files in a year, where the regional average is 1,242. Can we pinpoint a reason for this? And my second question, do we ever track the number of students related to bylaw calls? So the first question, can we pinpoint a reason why we have a disappropriate large number of files or complaints?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I
opinion.
don't have an answer to that question at this time. I don't know if it's something that I will be able to pinpoint, but I can certainly look into it further and get back to you at another time.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And do we ever track the number of student-related calls, or is that they're all just blended into one, the 1,800?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's all blended and we don't differentiate between whether it's a student or a permanent resident.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, at this point, can I ask for a motion to be supported by my fellow councilors to extend the bylaw position that ends on December 31st to a period, whatever Jason thinks appropriate? Because I honestly think we're understaffed in that area, and I know this position is ending December 31st, and I'd like to put a motion to extend it.
I'll ask the clerk, is that,
Through the mayor to members of council, I think either Jason or Maria might best answer that question, as there probably is a budgetary impact with regards to that.
Jason, can you answer that? That's to the end of the year. We were using money out of COVID relief funding, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. The current temporary position is 100% funded by COVID funding. We no longer have access to COVID funding effective January 1st, 2022, unless the province makes an announcement in the future that they're going to provide any further funding. But at this point in time, I'm not aware of any such funding. So there would definitely be a budgetary impact should council decide to extend this temporary contract.
I know we're hoping to get more funding, but we can't count on it until we get it, that's for sure. But can I, is our Director of Finance there to see if there's money still left in COVID funding if we do this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, the province has not announced new funding, and it's my understanding that we should be utilizing the full COVID amount within the current year. So, you know, the budget will be coming out to council probably this week, either tomorrow or Thursday, and there would be a budget impact at this point.
So if could I don't know if you're interested, Councillor DeRose, I'm just throwing this out there. If you want to extend it for 1 month pending budget deliberation, would that be prudent to our Director of Finance?
Yeah, I think all the residents would appreciate that 100%.
And again,
Is that possible?
I'll ask our Director of Finance.
Well, again, through you, Mr. Mayor, the budget is prepared. It's just being photocopied. So there will be a change to, to the budget as presented that, Jason can tell us what the amount would be for a month, and council can make the determination if you would go forward. I guess what we're hoping is that you would get your package this week. The clerk will be contacting council to see what your availability is for I believe it's the last Tuesday and Wednesday of January. So I don't know if 1 month is going to do it. I'm not sure that you're going to be completed your deliberations, in time to finish off January or not. The budget will be coming out. You can certainly make the change, but it will be reflected in the budget in your first meeting.
Okay, Councillor DeRose, go ahead, Jason.
Just so that council is aware, thank you, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. The monthly costs to extend this contract position would be approximately $6,500 per month.
Okay, so how do you want to handle that, Councillor DeRose? Do you want to make a motion? Because that's up to you. I'd
still like to pass the motion just for the month.
Do you want to extend the contract to the end of January pending review?
For a month till we have further input from finance and when we're deliberating for budget. I think this is imperative to. I think it's needed. This is a need. This isn't a want. It's not something Carmen DeRose wants. It's a need.
Okay.
For our city.
So do you have a seconder to do that? Do I have a seconder, Councillor Kenny? Okay. So we have this would be an addition to this, correct? This is Joanne. Would this be item number 4 then on this?
Through the mayor to members of council, yes, we just need a seconder for that as well.
I got Councillor Kenny. That the current, how would that go? That the current temporary position be extended till the end of January pending budget review? Is that how we want to say it?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, are you good with that, Councillor DeRose?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, I am.
Councillor Longo, go ahead. He wants to. You're speaking to that addition. Go. You're muted, Councillor.
Thank you, I was. I'll just follow up. Do we need to determine where that funding comes from?
Probably a good idea. I'll ask our Director of Finance to comment on that.
Through Mr. Mayor, we will we'll bring forward a funding source at the first meeting of budget. This has sort of caught me off guard. I haven't really had an opportunity to look. Certainly if it's 1 month and it's a one-time thing, we could look to reserves. However, if it's an ongoing thing, then it really should come from the levy. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you at this point, and we will bring it forward as part of our budget changes in the first meeting of the budget.
Thank you so much. Does that answer your question, Councillor Longo?
Yes, it does. I know we're putting the Director of Finance in a bit of a position here because she just did the budget, but we'll leave it at that. If I could go back, Mr. Mayor, just ask a couple questions to Mr. Simpson.
Yes, go ahead. Well, yes, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just on the overall report. Mr. Simpson, Councillor DeRose, I think, mentioned it. Thorold has 1,800 files in a year. St. Catharines has 3,000. They're 7 times bigger than us. We either have a huge problem in Thorold or they are a very kind and compassionate city. I don't know what it is, but can you look into that when you come back with this report to see if these numbers are accurate? Because that was something I picked out here, and it seems like we have a very large proportion of files, and if you could pinpoint the reason why, I'd appreciate it. And my second request is, member of the public's been asking when the residential rental licensing report will be coming. And I'm wondering if you can give an update on a date for that.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor, that residential rental licensing report was postponed temporarily, but it's planned to come in January of 2022.
Okay.
That way we can provide accurate data for the year of 2021.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, through you, if I could just make a comment on Councilor DeRosa's request. My feeling on extending it for a month, I'm kind of torn, because if we don't extend it, we could lose an employee to somewhere else. But if we do extend it, I'm not sure if it's necessary. As you know, students are gone, and I don't think the university is opening up in January. So I'm not quite sure if we're going to have the demand required for bylaw enforcement in the community, and I'll just throw that out there. So
It's a good point, but I can tell you that last time, like last year, we had a lot of issues because a lot of students showed up even though they weren't going to school. And actually, in some days, we actually had more issues because of idle time, I think. But that's something I can't guarantee either way. Yeah. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jason. Is the person willing and able to, the person that's in the position now, would they stay on? Or would we have to rehire someone?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Sentence, I have of the belief that they would be more than willing to stay on.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Now, to our clerk, do we have to do that one as a separate vote, or can we do it all together?
Through the mayor to members of council, you first have to vote on the amendment, then the main motion as amended.
That's what I thought. Okay, so can you read that one more time then? We'll vote on that, and then we'll go to the main motion.
Sure. So it's around that council directs staff to extend the temporary contract bylaw position for 1 month until the end of January 2022 until further budget deliberations.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Did you get that to the clerk? Did you get, okay. Now the full motion. Okay, I had a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor DeRose. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. 16C, PDS 2021-58, assignment of the Artisan Ridge Tax Increment-Based Grant Program Agreement, and mover, Councillor, go ahead, Councillor DeRose. Did you want to?
Mr. Mayor, I still wanted to add something about Jason's report, if you don't mind. I still had a comment to make or a question to ask about Jason's report. Is that possible to go back?
To the clerk, we've already passed
Just the
that
last
report. That report.
Last part of his report was about the need of a supervisory bylaw enforcement person, because he had all the stats there about how we compare to other communities and how his time is taken away from his main job, and and it goes on and on. It's well written, but so can I discuss that real quick?
I'll ask the clerk. We've already passed that. We've already voted on that.
No, we voted on the bylaw guy, but there's another part to his report talking about the need for a supervisor of bylaw enforcement. Now, all I wanted to ask is, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Through the mayor to members of council, the entire report has been passed. It would be up to council if they want to allow Councillor DeRose to further ask the questions.
Yeah, I thought it was just on my motion that we voted on.
You're going to be able to ask those questions. This report is, you're going to be able to ask that questions at budget. Am I correct, Jason? And Maria, go ahead.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, respectfully, I would suggest that that would be discussion for budget deliberations when council has an opportunity to view everything before you as opposed to making these decisions in isolation.
Thank you. Are you good with that, Councillor DeRose? It will be addressed at budget.
Yeah, and I was just gonna ask for the costing of it, and I'll do that on budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, the PDS 2021-58 assignment of the Artisan Ridge Tax Increment Base Grant Program Agreement. Mover, Councillor Neal, seconder, Councillor Kenny, and I'll turn this over to Denise Landry, Manager of Planning. Go ahead, Denise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of the report are that Planning and Development Services Report PDS 2021-58 be received, that the assignment of the tax increment grant agreement for 181 Queen Street and 1686 Beaver Dams Road, Artisan Ridge Subdivision, from Downing Street Associates Incorporated to Meridian Credit Union Limited for collateral security purposes be approved, and that staff be directed to prepare a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign the transfer agreement. And this concludes the report.
Thank you, Denise, and I'll open the floor for questions. Are there any questions regarding this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. CC 2021-77, letter of municipal significance for the Junior B Blackhawks home games. I have a mover, Councillor Sentence, and a seconder, Councillor Longo, and I'll turn this over to, are you doing this? Councillor DeRose, did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know staff was going to speak on it first. Go ahead. I have a question after staff speaks on it. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm a mover, Councillor Sentence, seconder, Councillor Longo, and I'll turn this over to our Deputy City Clerk, Joanne Goulet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation of the report is that Council declares the Thorold Junior B Blackhawk home games to be played at the Thorold Community Arenas on the following dates: January 3rd, 10th, 17th, 21st, 24th, and 31st, 2022, February 7th, 12th, 14th, 21, and 28, 2022, and March 7th, 22, and that the home game playoffs dates are to be determined, and that Roberto Polillo shall be responsible for complying with all conditions imposed by the AGCO.
Okay, now I'll open the floor for questions. And Councillor DeRose, you said you had a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the appropriate staff, what was the rationale for recommending this to council?
Mr. Polillo needs our municipal letter of significance to attach to the AGCO application to receive the licensing that he needs.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I totally don't agree with this decision. Being on the road safety committee, I will not support this. There's usually children and teens at the games, and I don't think it'd be in the community's best interest to have people drinking on a Monday night, leaving the Thorold Arena. I spoke to Paul Webb, Staff Sergeant, Road Safety. He agrees with me. I was waiting to hear back from the MAD organization, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I spoke to the AGCO today, and I don't know if they're doing it for a profit, but he said that's not the intention of a municipal, what's it called again? I'm sorry.
Letter of municipal significance.
Yeah, he said it's not a type of thing that is meant to make a profit, which is probably what the Junior B team, maybe they need money, and I feel bad, but not at the expense of what our community arena represents. And like I said, most of the people there are teenagers, even the players. They're teenagers, they're underage. The fans are underage, most of them, and children are there. So I disagree with this, and I hope my fellow councilors support me. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on this? Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Normally, I would support this 100%. I think it's a good idea. I mean, I know they would only serve alcohol to people that they should. It's nice to go down the arena and have a beer and watch a hockey game if you're an adult. Nothing wrong with it. It's going to be in an area. I'm just not sure with COVID and everything that's going on right now. Is there any way that we could maybe just defer this till the beginning or the middle of January and just see what's happening in the region? I don't know what everybody thinks of that, but
Well, you can't
I just
defer
think
it,
the
you
timing
spoke
of it
on
is
it,
terrible.
so-
But normally, I would 100% support this.
You can't defer it, you spoke on it, but I don't know if anyone wants to, a staff wants to speak to it regarding the rules in the arena first. Then I'll go back to the floor. Jeff, do you have anything you might want to add regarding, or we don't know, we're in flux right now? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I think you're right. Maybe, perhaps Curtis Dre could provide the most current information on what's happening at our arenas and how we're trying to address the whole COVID protocol.
Go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So currently there is no food or beverage permitted inside the arena as per the provincial legislation. So I understand what Councillor Kenny is saying, and I think it's got some merit for sure. Again, I know they've suspended their practices as well currently, so this may be a little bit premature based on the current situation out there right now with COVID. So yes, I think there's merit in potentially delaying this, but
So
again,
you're saying there's merit to defer it to the meeting in January and see what the landscape is then? Is that basically, do you,
yeah.
okay, so that being said, Terry, did you want, Chief Dixon, did you want to comment? Because Terry heads up our EOC committee. Go ahead. I don't know if you wanted to comment. I seen you come forward there.
Through you, Mayor, just to council, we're really not sure where this is going. My understanding from our emergency management meetings is that this is escalating every single day. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I have a meeting again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, so hopefully I'll find out some more at that point in time. But I think I concur with Councillor Kenny that, like I say, this is going to get worse before it gets better. So we should sustain to what we're doing right this moment.
Thank you. So does anyone want to defer this to our meeting in January? I'll ask Councillor Sentence. You see his hand up.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'd like to ask for deferral on this. I've seen many beer gardens. They have, smart serve and do it well.
No, but you want to defer it so there's no debate. Do we have a seconder? I had Councillor Decker. Okay, there's no debate. Defer this to our meeting in January. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. 16E. CC 2021-81 Shared Servicing Agreement for a Shared Appeal Hearing Officer. Mover Councillor Wilson, a seconder Councillor Decker, and I'll turn this over to our city. Who's doing this? Is Joanne Hyde doing it or Joanne Goulet? Joanne Hyde, our city clerk.
One of us will.
I'm going to have Joanne 1 and Joanne 2 so I can differentiate.
So the recommendation to this report is that council receive clerk's report 81 2021 shared servicing agreement for a shared hearing officer for information, and that council authorize and direct the mayor and city clerk to execute the said shared services agreement attached hereto as Appendix A, and that council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw for council's consideration with respect to appointing Rutherford Prosecutions as the appeal officer with respect to administrative monetary penalty system for both parking and non-parking related offenses for the city of Thorold, and that the position of deputy clerk and city clerk with respect to administrative monetary penalty system for both parking and non-parking related for the city of Thorold, and that council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to allow both screening officer reviews and appeals officer reviews to be conducted virtually for both AMPS parking and non-parking related offenses.
Okay. Is there anybody that wants to ask any questions or speak on that report? Councillor DeRose. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. to the appropriate staff, Joanne, how many appeals would we get based on a year? Because I know they're saying they'll cover with this agreement 2 a month, or is it or is it one a month? I'm sorry, but how many do we have in a year? I think they said they'll cover 12 in a year.
Through the mayor to members
Is that correct?
through the mayor to members of council. I believe Jason might need to assist me with that question. But right now, what they want to change to is having them buy every other month, which increases our customer service to be able to offer more and every other month to individuals. But if Jason can help with that response.
Jason, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have the numbers for how many appeals we typically receive in a year, but I believe the intent is not to have 1 appeal or 2 appeals per month. Those are the a number of days scheduled for appeals, but you could have multiple appeals heard in those days.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Jerome?
So this is a good, oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you. So Jason, in your opinion, this is a good move?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, in my opinion, this is a good move. This will help not only save our staff a lot of time because we currently administer it for approximately half of the region already. So this will give the town of Pelham an opportunity to administer it. So it'll save our bylaw officers a lot of administrative time, and it will help have consistency across the entire region.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Okay, now we move on to notices of motion, and first of all, you were okay with what happened on Vision Zero, Councillor DeRose?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, can I get the clerk or your advice on that? If you think that was adequate in response, or should I still, can I ask Joanne Hyde for her advice?
Sure, through the mayors to members of council. Councillor DeRose, it would entirely be up to you. I don't see that there's any issue with requesting what you're seeking to request. So, I mean, it doesn't do any harm.
Yeah, it would just be putting it in writing instead of just my words that I spoke earlier. Is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I also wanted to bring a motion about the Char Technology. So I'll just do the one to the Niagara Regional Police first.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, through the mayor to members of council, we do need a motion to waive procedure by law to allow for notice of motion without notice, as it's time sensitive relating to Vision Zero presentation and to Char Technologies.
So for both, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you need a seconder for that? I need a seconder. Councillor Sentence, okay? All those in favor? I can't see Councillor Wilson or Councillor Kenny. Are you in favor? Oh, no. Okay, that's carried. We had more than 2/3. Okay, so now, go ahead, Councillor. You want to do the vision first?
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mayor, you're breaking out and I can't see anybody, so this new computer isn't as new as I thought. But anyway, so here's my request that council request the office of the clerk to prepare correspondence to formally ask the region of Niagara to consider photo radar or red light cameras to be located within the city of Thorold sooner than later, that a copy of the correspondence be provided to Carolyn Royale, Director of Transportation Services, the Chair of the Niagara Police Services, and the Niagara Regional Police Services.
I think that Carolyn's name spelled wrong there. Okay, can we get that spelled? It should be R-Y, okay? A-L, I think, I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2 L's, but, right? Okay. And Do you want to make it, the red light be located in communities? It has to be in a community safety zone.
Right. And you know where I would ask, I think that Richmond and Collier is a perfect spot.
So why don't you say, because they're
Right.
doing a review on Collier Road right now, so why don't you say be located in, in,
Or community safety zone that's.
community
but
zone under
it's
review,
still not
under
designated, correct?
review, Collier Road. How's that? I want to make sure we pinpoint.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Are
Yeah, I agree.
Are you good with that? Because it'd be a friendly amendment. I don't
Yes.
want to tell you, I'm not putting words in your
Yes.
mouth. I want you to be happy with what.
No, I agree with your words, Mr. Mayor.
Is that not a regional road?
Yes, that's why. It's a regional
Okay.
road. That's the first,
Correct.
wait, go ahead, Manoj.
Councillor DeRose, for the red light camera, it's better to specify the intersection. Thank you.
It's the,
Okay, thank you,
it's a
Manoj.
community safety
I'll
zone.
go along with the mayor's amendment then, friendly
Yeah.
amendment.
Community safety zone and Collier Road, okay? Because they're reviewing that whole area between the two schools, okay? So it's actually two intersections.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Okay. That's a mover, Councillor DeRose. Can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Neal. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Okay, and you're up next on Char.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to bring a motion at the next council meeting to reconsider and void the letter of, I don't know if it's a letter of support or it's really a support in principle for Char Technologies. Thank
Okay,
you.
you're gonna bring that to the next meeting, and we have the other one that we approved tonight that's going out, the one from Councillor Sentence. Are you good with that?
Mr. Mayor, we just waived the
Yes,
procedural
yes.
bylaw so we could bring it at this meeting, is what council just did, so you can bring it now.
You can bring it, but I don't know if he has the language he wants. Do you have the language you want, or do you want to do it next time? It's up to you, Councillor Jerome.
You know what? I would rather do it tonight. I thought I had to wait.
No, we waived it. That's why we brought it
But
up.
Right, okay, can I bring a motion to reconsider the letter of support for Char Technologies until we have further information, or as to follow up with Councillor Sentence's request or motion earlier?
Okay, so I'll ask the clerk if she's got that down and if she'll read it back.
Yeah, can I get, Joanne, can you help me with that, please?
She's working on it right now, Councillor Jerome. I want to make sure that
Thank you.
we get what you want and it gets seconded and before we move forward.
Okay, so
I got a mover, Councillor DeRose, and I'll need a seconder for this motion. It's got Councillor Sentence. Okay, go ahead.
that council reconsider the resolution adopted at its September 21st regular meeting of council to provide a letter of support for Char Technologies until further information is available.
Until further review of Councillor Sentence motion, or further information is available, period, Councillor DeRose?
Whatever the clerk thinks is best in the wording. She's good at that, and
Okay,
I always look to her
I'll leave that with her. And now.
I would say until further information is available. That way it's not
Yeah.
so restrictive. That way you can always amend to, it depends on what council wants in terms of information as opposed to restricting it.
I think that's a good way to put it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and I had you moving it, and I had Councillor Sentence seconding it, and I have Councillor Neal that wants to speak to it.
Yeah, I agree with the motion, but is there anything legal wise that should be checked into before it's finalized?
And that is a good question, and I'll turn that over to the clerk. And
So through the mayor to members of council, I'm not sure if Marco is still on here, but my understanding is the letter that was being provided, or the resolution that was being provided to Char Technologies, had nothing to do with approving them within the city of Thorold, rather with supporting in principle so that they can apply for grant funding at the province or at the federal level. I just see Marco's hand here.
Whose hand?
Marco.
Marco.
Yeah, there we go. We'll see if he jumps in here to provide some clarification on that, and then maybe planning can provide some clarification with regards to that process.
And is Paul's here as well. Okay, go ahead, Marco.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So through you, Mr. Mayor, as was stated by our city clerk, Joanne, she's very correct in the sense that what the resolution that was brought forward at the council meeting that was approved, as was at regional council, was to approve in principle the project that Char Technologies is looking at bringing forward. However, it's specific to complementing their applications for provincial and federal levels of funding, not for an application to actually apply this business in the city. They would still have to go through those procedures. They would still have to meet our zoning bylaw requirements. They may even need, as Paul may mention, go through site plan, where other or outside organizations would have to comment and provide clarity as well, such as MECP, such as TSSA, such as potentially some other regional organizations. So at this time, what's been approved is a resolution to support their application essentially for funding to the provincial and federal levels of government to try and obviously set up their business here in Thorold, which is what has been passed at this point.
Thank you. Paul, did you want to speak at all?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the proposed use is a permitted use on those lands. It's considered an industrial use. So there isn't a rezoning that's required that would come to council. It's just a matter of site plan approval, and that's delegated to staff, to the Director of Planning for approval. So really the only thing that would come to council is the bylaw giving the direction for the mayor and clerk to sign the site plan agreement. As Marco mentioned, the site plan process would involve all of those other outside agencies that are still required to give their approvals, and the applicant would have to meet all the conditions that would be imposed as part of the site plan approval.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, does that answer everybody's questions? Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the explanations. Again, I'm still not comfortable with supporting this proposal, this company, until I have expert opinion on it.
Okay.
And I don't want to give a letter of support. I've said that before, until I have expert opinion on their technology and how to go forward. So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the motion from Councillor DeRose, seconded by Councillor Sentence. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? You're opposed, Councillor? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I don't want to explain myself. I'm
Okay.
opposed. I think we should be, well, I can't say what we should do.
Anyway, okay. That's carried. Okay, bylaws. First reading of the bylaws.
Oh, through the mayor?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're pulling bylaw 99, 2021, as that was related to, well, one of the planning reports that was deferred.
What one is that again, please? Sorry.
99.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first reading of the bylaws, moved by Councillor DeRose, seconded by Councillor Neal, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Bylaw 125-2021, 126-2021, 127-2021, 128-2021, 135-2021, 136-2021, 137-2021, and that the same now be read a first time. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Final reading of the bylaws. Moved by Councillor DeRose, seconded by Councillor Neal, that the bylaws just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We are now going to move into closed session, and one sec here, I need my notes. I have a mover, Councillor Longo, and a seconder, Councillor Wilson, that council move into closed session for, I don't have the,
Yeah, sorry, through the mayor. That was my fault. I didn't include them in there. It's to discuss matters about employee negotiations and solicitor-client privilege.
okay, so that's, we're moving into closed session to discuss those two things.
Councillor Wilson's not in the meeting, Mr. Mayor. She seconded it.
Oh, okay, thank you. I need a seconder then. Councillor Decker, okay? Thank you for noting that. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we're going to move into closed session, so you know you have to log out and log in on the closed session Zoom login, and we'll reconvene. And does anyone need a few minutes?
I do. Just
Okay.
want to wish staff a Merry Christmas as well.